to understand the circumstances that led to this accident. The aircraft involved in the accident was a Beechcraft B200 Super King Air. As part of our investigation, we are liaising with other state investigation authorities. At this stage, it is too early to speculate on what may have caused this tragic accident. Our focus is on gathering the physical evidence from the accident site and interviewing witnesses. The remains of the aircraft will then be recovered to our facility in Farnborough, Hampshire, for further detailed investigation. Our thoughts are with the families and friends of everyone involved. We would also like to express our thanks to the emergency services and the airport for their assistance. Thank you.
Okay, and that was a press conference there on the Southend Airport crash. Of course, 4 killed in a fireball in a plane crash yesterday. And returning to today's top story, breaking news from this past hour, and that is the aristocrat Constance Martin and her partner Mark Gordon have been found guilty at the Old Bailey of the manslaughter of their newborn baby. And our Homeland Security editor Mark White joins me now. Mark White, the case that gripped the nation, and now the full lurid details are emerging. Tell us more.
Martin, this is an absolutely heartbreaking case. A young baby, just 3 weeks, that it lived before it died. And it lived in the most miserable of circumstances because of the criminal, reckless actions of her mother and father, Mark Gordon and Constance Martin, who decided that they would go on the run from the police after the birth of this young girl to prevent the authorities from taking her into care as the couple's 4 other children had been taken into care for their own safety. Mark Gordon, a convicted rapist who is involved in multiple other violent incidents, including the battery of Constance Martin that resulted in her having a ruptured spleen, a very violent individual. And as I say, through the actions of this too, it led to the death of this young girl. I've been looking back at what is the most harrowing of cases.
Hello, sorry mate. You stop for a second.
On the outskirts of Brighton, the moment police finally catch up with Constance Martin and Mark Gordon, the end of almost 2 months on the run.
Put the stick down. Drop it now.
As police question the pair, it's obvious they've been living rough, and alarmingly, there's no sign of their baby.
Where's your child, my friend? Where's the child?
My food, please.
In a minute, where's your child?
The nationwide manhunt for the couple had begun in early January 2023 after the discovery of their car on fire at the side of a motorway in Greater Manchester. Later, as police examined the burnt-out car, they made a highly disturbing discovery. Wrapped in a towel on the back seat, a placenta, along with personal possessions, including Constance Martin's passport. A UK-wide investigation was launched, with officers seriously concerned for the safety of a newborn that hadn't received any medical attention.
Think of the baby and reach out to us even at this early stage just to let us know that you are okay and the baby is okay.
But the couple were determined to evade authorities. Over the coming weeks, they travelled hundreds of miles on public transport and in taxis. Occasionally caught on CCTV, like here in this transport hub in Bolton on the day their car caught fire. From here, they took a minicab to Merseyside. 2 days later, they travelled as far as East London. Here, they're seen leaving a taxi, Mark Gordon with the little shopping bag, which would be used to carry their baby daughter Victoria for much of the rest of her short life. But in these images, the infant is under her mother's coat. At a restaurant in East Ham that same day, the first clear images of baby Victoria being placed in a buggy the couple had just purchased in an Argos store. Inexplicably, they dumped the buggy just hours later, opting instead to carry the newborn in the shopping bag. Despite regular police appeals accompanied by the release of more images, the manhunt seemed no closer to finding them.
It would have been a very, very difficult case to deal with. One of the things that made it especially difficult was the fact that Constance Martin had access to cash, a lot of cash. So there wasn't a facility or an ability to track them through credit cards or withdrawals or using normal bank services. So I think this is probably one of the most complex cases that I've ever come across.
Constance Martin was born into an aristocratic family. Her grandmother, a goddaughter of the late Queen Mother, her father, a page to Queen Elizabeth. But her relationship with her family broke down after she met Mark Gordon, who'd been deported to the UK after spending years in a US prison for rape. The couple have 4 other children, who were all taken into care after the involvement of social services. In her evidence to the Old Bailey, Martin claimed they'd gone on the run to avoid baby Victoria being taken into care as well. Just days after being reported missing, they'd arrived on the south coast, initially in Newhaven, then Brighton, where they camped off-grid in a tent on the South Downs. Later examination of CCTV shows them walking around the area and buying provisions. Constance Martin claimed baby Victoria died in her arms as she slept just days after she was born, and she and Gordon continued to carry her remains around with them in the shopping bag. But prosecutors said witnesses recalled seeing the child alive weeks after it's claimed she died. The pair were finally captured after a member of the public spotted them out walking on the outskirts of Brighton.
At the moment, you're under arrest for child neglect.
As it became clear officers had the missing couple, they tried desperately to get them to reveal where their child was.
Right, where's your child?
Have we searched her?
With no cooperation from the pair, police reinforcements arrived to carry out a detailed search of the area as the nation held its breath. In one of the sheds on the allotment, the little shopping bag the couple had regularly used to carry baby Victoria. Inside, under a mound of rubbish, they found the baby's remains. A later examination was inconclusive on the cause of death. But the prosecution said there was little doubt the couple's own reckless actions in never seeking medical attention, in living off the grid in appalling conditions, had led to this completely avoidable tragedy. Mark White, GB News. It's just utterly tragic, it really is. That young girl, although they had bought that buggy that you saw there on the final images for baby Victoria, they opted instead to dump the buggy and just carry this infant around in that little shopping bag. She survived, as I say, for a few short weeks, but this was the dead of winter. And it's believed, according to the prosecuting counsel in this case, that she probably died from hypothermia and a combination of not receiving proper medical attention. She never saw a doctor in her 3 short weeks. So Mark Gordon and Constance Martin, now found guilty of manslaughter through gross negligence. They'll both be convicted, sentenced at a later date, Martin.
Okay, thank you, Mark White. Harrowing story. Poor old Victoria, 3 weeks old. Thank you, Mark White. Now, MPs are today debating a petition that calls for the Northern Ireland Legacy Bill to be scrapped, which critics argue would pave the way for British Army veterans to be prosecuted if it becomes law. Northern Ireland veterans are holding a protest in Westminster today as we speak. To coincide with the debate, let's cross live now immediately and speak to GBNews reporter Dougie Beattie. Dougie, you're out there on the streets of Westminster. There are hundreds of veterans around you. Tell us about the mood on the ground.
Well, the mood on the ground is very angry, Martin, because these veterans served the Crown and were attacked by the IRA throughout their lives inside the Army. And one of those that's being called for is the Loch Gall, which happened on the 8th of May back in the 80s. And an SAS group actually set up an ambush for an IRA unit that was mortar bombing a police station. And one of those that was involved in that was Patrick Kelly. Now, Patrick Kelly had a checkered past, and you can't deny that he was in the IRA. And one man that definitely can't deny it is Glenn Espy. Glenn, tell us about your tale with Patrick Kelly.
I met Patrick Kelly at the end of my lane 7 weeks before the Loch Gall incident, the 19th of March. As I was pulling out left to go to Cookstown, I could see a car sitting on a driveway. The car accelerated out, and I could see 3 masked terrorists in the car. It blocked my path, it straddled the white line, and before I knew, I could see the gunmen jumping out of the car. As I was trying to bring the car to a stop, my car was vibrating with the rounds hitting the car. And I can see the guys clearly. I can see the guy putting his arm up on the roof. I can see him using the door to support the weapon, a 7.62 Hector & Koch G3 assault rifle. And I can see the first rounds as it's fired. I can see the round going over the roof of the car. And as I say, the first shot come out, there was a puff of smoke. The weapon had obviously been well oiled and put into a deep hide. As I bringing the car to a stop and the rounds were hitting my car, I think they never expected me to do what I did. I opened the door and rolled out onto the road. Basically, my car was caught in the killing ground in the front of their vehicle. As I rolled out onto the road, I was shot through the left wrist, and I run down the side of the car, jumped into the drainage ditch at the side of my car. But because the 2 cars were that close, basically when my car stopped, we were 2 car lengths apart. When I looked up the side of my car, all I could see was the boot lid of their car. So I had to crawl up the shuck using my knees because this arm was shattered. At that time, I got my own personal protection weapon out, and I got up alongside of my car. I could see the gunmen. They didn't know where I'd went. They thought I was still behind the car, and they're looking at my car going from one side to the other. And I'm hoping if I fire 2 or 3 quick rounds, to be honest, these boys will bugger off. All I did when I fired those 2 or 3 quick rounds, I brought the guys onto where I was in the drainage ditch, and they started engaging me in the drainage ditch. One of them, the second gunman, when I returned fire, I don't know where he went to. And as this guy engaged me, and again, he was firing what we had called in the military double tap. He wasn't scattering rounds all over the place, a couple of rounds at a time. And I knew this guy had killed before because he was determined to take me out. And again, I'm never going to win the firefight with a pistol. I'm in the shock. The rounds are lifting big lumps of chunks of mud out round me. Some of them are going by my head and cutting up the ground behind me. I can hear the gunman, which is I now know to be Patrick Kelly, shouting. I don't know what he's shouting, but I can hear him shouting. And I can see the driver getting lower and lower in the car because some of my return fire is impacting around where the driver is and obviously where Paddy Kelly is. The second.
So he shot you and you got involved in a gunfight with him. The irony of this is, of course, that if you'd have killed him, you would be facing an inquiry right now.
That's probably right. If I had killed him that day, it would have been an inquiry into my actions in that day. It would have been investigated by the RUC, and obviously if I'd done anything wrong, I would have been prosecuted.
And what's happening now is these lawyers are digging up all these investigations and coming back at them and saying they're not right, even though we look at Loch Gall, they were engaged in an ambush with the police station. They were trying to mortar it. We have Gleno, where they were attacking a police station just shortly beforehand with an anti-aircraft gun. And we have Coke, where 3 IRA men, fully armed, got into a tussle with the SAS. And do you think Hilary Benn will grant an inquest to Patrick Kelly's sister?
Well, he certainly gave Patrick Kelly's sister an undertaking that he will. And you can imagine people like myself and the veterans here today, when we see after the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, something like 200 comfort letters were handed out to IRA terrorists who allegedly were involved in something like 295 murders. So those people have got off scot-free, and they're trying to put elderly veterans in court for something that has already been investigated and done through the courts. Every round with the military was fired and was investigated.
So is this politicisation of justice?
Well, we see it as a two-tier justice system, that there's a justice for trying to prosecute veterans, but letting everyone else off free. And successive British governments seem to have let the veterans community down. And indeed, we can see Republicans rewriting history to suit their narrative.
Well, I thank you, sir, for your service and keeping us safe in Northern Ireland through those very bad times. I must say that was the second time this man was shot, but there is stories like this right across all these veterans behind us, and they are now pushing the government, particularly Keir Starmer, to not repeal this bill and make sure that those veterans will not face court action in Belfast.
Dougie Beattie, an astonishing story of bravery, of survival by that man of Pine. Shake that lucky hand. He survived against all of the odds. An incredible tale, and a debate in Parliament sparked by himself, and 170,000 signatures to follow. 4:30. Dougie Beattie, excellent reporting. We'll cross back to you throughout the show, and continuing on the same theme, I'll be joined in the studio shortly by SAS veteran hero Matthew Hellier, and also by Sarah Pochin, the MP for Runcorn for the Reform Party, who's taken part in that debate. You with me, Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 3:26. You with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, for more reaction to the Legacy Bill debate, I'm joined now in the studio by the former SAS soldier, the hero, Matthew Hellier, and also the Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Pochin, who's taking part in that parliamentary debate later on. Welcome to you both. Matthew Hellier, I'm going to start with you. We just spoke with a veteran there in Parliament Square, an astonishing interview. I know you heard it, of an RUC soldier who was caught under serious fire, machine gun fire. And I think I want people watching the show to try and understand the kind of hostility people like yourselves, armed forces veterans, face, having to make split-second decisions.
Yeah.
Decades later, you could be prosecuted. Try and help our viewers to understand the sheer pressure of those moments.
Yeah, but you're right. It was the situation that British servicemen were put in. We were put in with a yellow card, which give us our rules and regulations, what we're allowed to do, rules of engagement. But we were put along streets. We were walking targets. We didn't know where the terrorists were. They had carte blanche to shoot us, bomb us. It was extremely, extremely frightening. For me as a young man, joining the military and as a 19-year-old walking the streets of Northern Ireland, my first contact, real contact, was when one of my patrol members lost both legs. And then the 3 other members were extremely traumatised. And then we followed on with another tour where we lost 3 of our soldiers in Belfast. It was just so scary. It's, you know, although we are trained soldiers, you know, this is Great Britain we are patrolling. These are our people that we were told we were there to protect, and they're bombing us, they're shooting us, they're killing us, and we had no rights really to return fire. We didn't really want to return fire. We were there to bring the peace, and that was our mission, and that's really what we wanted to do. We just wanted a united Britain, and we're under the governance of the ruling parties, and that's what it was. You know, we were just scared soldiers trying to do a job.
Can I put some footage on screen now? GB News exclusively got this footage. No other media outlet has got this. It's CCTV footage from outside a police station, Coal Island, in 1992. On screen now, you can see footage from the police station, and a vehicle is about to come into play. You can see it emerging from the bottom right-hand side. Look, it's opening fire, it's dumping heavy artillery into a police station, and it takes off. And that vehicle was pursued by Special Forces operatives, and 4 drivers, I understand it, 4 people inside that, Matthew Hellier, were neutralised. Just show again, just the context of the hostility being faced. And let's move on now. We've got a couple of images of the weaponry that was later seized from that one vehicle. And then we've got 2 pictures now we can show. Matthew Hellier, talk us through, what is that?
What we're looking at now is a 12.7 Dushka, heavy machine gun. One of these rounds will go through armour. This is an armour-piercing round. It would cause havoc to the human body and people around it. These are sophisticated weapons that is just you can't imagine the sort of destruction, definite destruction they would cause. And to have them fired at you, what we done in the Special Forces, we were reactive. We could only react to what was in front of us. There's no such thing as an ambush in the British Army. We are reactive troops. To see this being shot at you, we must do one thing. We must stop these perpetrators from causing havoc amongst the soldiers, the population and the civilians.
And in that particular instance, we could also see a rocket-powered grenade there, an RPG on the guy's shoulder. This was seized. These are terrorists. These are IRA terrorists out to cause harm and intent. Their job, in many senses, is to neutralise British soldiers. At this point, an SAS platoon unit was deployed to take out these 4 individuals. That happened, and it was later ruled that excessive force was used. And so here we are, all these years later. This is just but one incident that brings us to Parliament Square today.
Exactly, and we have the senior ranks now. They will argue this. There is not excessive force. When we're faced with a Dushka heavy machine gun and an RPG, these guys, they must be stopped. They're going to cause death and destruction.
OK, and Sarah Pochin, I'm going to bring you in now. The debate is taking part in Parliament from 4:30. You're going to speak in it. What are you going to say?
I am going to speak in it because I feel so strongly about this, Martin. The Special Forces, the British Special Forces, are the best in the world. The British people know that they do their utmost to defend us. They put their lives on the line, and they did so in the 70s in Northern Ireland. My dad served at the height of the Troubles, so for me this is a very personal issue. But I know that I am a voice for these gentlemen who would have died for us. How is it possible that a government of any political persuasion is willing to sell them down the line in order to appease the Irish government?
Do you think 170,000 people have signed this signature? There are hundreds of armed forces veterans outside right now, coming from all over the United Kingdom and beyond. Do you think the government's going to listen?
Well, if Reform was the government, this wouldn't be happening at all. I really hope it does listen, because if it doesn't, it's going to be another example of the betrayal of the British people. The petition, I helped it get over the line. I made it very clear in my stance then that the SAS motto was "Who dares wins," not "Who dares gets prosecuted." And this is what's happening. How can we possibly expect people to join the British Army, let alone be selected and put into the most dangerous situations where their lives are on the line, when they may be prosecuted for actions? And let's not forget, Martin, these brave men have 100% loyalty to their regiment, 100% loyalty to the government, and 100% loyalty to the monarch. Those are the people that are giving them the orders. They are following orders. It's what they're trained to do.
Matthew Haley, a final word to you. You signed up, your compatriots signed up, Queen and country, put in the country first. Do you think the country has forgotten that bond with you? Are we led by a parliamentary class that seems to now, all these years later, treat people like you like second-class citizens?
It seems to be that way, that they have forgotten us. They've forgotten, which side the bread is buttered on. We're there to protect the civilians. We're there to uphold the rights of the government and the British people. We're there to uphold democracy, and we need every party, not just Reform. At the moment, Reformers are really pushing this. We need every party to stand up and support British veterans.
And we know that politicians watch this show. If the Prime Minister were watching this or his office were watching this, what would you say to Number 10?
Look at the lives that this is affecting. These are the veterans we're talking about are they're not young guys. The people that were shooting and killing those guys are now walking free. They have a bill that protects them. Our veterans do not, and they're now going to face court case after court case, which is ruining their lives, their families' lives, and it's causing havoc amongst recruitment, retention. The armed forces are not behind this bill. We need to support military veterans and armed forces.
OK, Matthew Haley, thank you very much. And Sarah Poacher, and of course we'll cover that debate as it happens in Parliament later on. Thank you both very much for coming in the studio today. Appreciate your time. There's lots more still to come between now and 4 o'clock, including calls for a man to be stripped of his MBE after he allegedly led a Muslim community boycott of South Yorkshire Police during the rape gang inquiry scandal. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Business News Channel.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 3:35. Breaking news this afternoon. Aristocrat Constance Martin and her partner, convicted rapist Mark Gordon, have been found guilty of the manslaughter of their newborn baby. 4 foreign nationals have died after a plane crashed and exploded at London Southend Airport yesterday afternoon. Essex police say that the plane was heading to the Netherlands and that they are working to officially confirm the identities of victims. A report into the BBC's MasterChef has upheld 45 allegations against the show's former presenter, Greg Wallace. He said he's deeply sorry for the distress his behaviour caused and said he never set out to harm or humiliate. The BBC has admitted breaching its editorial guidelines over a Gaza documentary narrated by the son of a Hamas official, a fact it failed to disclose. A review found production company Hoyo Films knew the boy's background, but no one at the BBC did. And Thames Water is imposing a hosepipe ban from next Tuesday across parts of Oxfordshire, Gloucestershire, Wiltshire and Berkshire. It follows a weekend of record-breaking temperatures. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, well, a wet day for some and a windy day in places as well. And for everywhere, it will be cooler and fresher. Now, many places have already turned cooler thanks to this area of low pressure. The weather front's tracking their way northwards, pushing away the very warm air that was with us through the weekend. Still pretty warm at the moment across East Anglia, but a few showers in here. Some heavy showers for northeast England and eastern Scotland. This line of rain continues to drift northwards through the early hours. And then lots of showers come in around that area of low pressure. Things turn pretty wet across Northern Ireland and windy in Wales and southwest England. A cooler night, temperatures dipping into the low teens, and a fresher feel on Tuesday, but a pretty wet start for parts of Northern Ireland, and quickly that rain spreading into southwest Scotland. Today's rain still lingering over the far north, but tending to ease off, and actually northern Scotland seeing some of the brightest weather tomorrow, but a wet start for southwest Scotland. That rain pulling away from Northern Ireland into North Wales, northwest England, where it will be a wet and windy day. These winds really picking up around the coast of Wales and southwest England. Unseasonably windy here, but quite a breezy, gusty day for many places tomorrow. And a wet day for much of Wales, northwest England. That rain creeping into northeast England, up towards the central belt of Scotland. Turns a bit brighter in Northern Ireland, but there'll still be plenty of showers here for the afternoon. The rain doesn't really reach East Anglia and the southeast until potentially late in the day. We could still get to 22 degrees here, but generally these temperatures 10 degrees or lower or more compared to the weekend. We'll see a bit of showery rain then clearing away to the east through Tuesday evening. Some welcome rain for some, of course. Wednesday's back to largely dry. Some patchy rain in the southwest and a few showers over northern England and southern Scotland. And showing signs of warming up a touch again in the south. Temperatures mostly in the low 20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A99 is closed between Latheron and Libster due to a collision, urging drivers to find alternative routes. On the westbound M48-7 bridge, roadworks have caused closures with diversions. In Lancashire, lanes are shut on the M6 southbound between junction 33 and 32 due to a crash, expected to clear by 9:15 tonight. Surrey's M25 clockwise sees one lane closed between junction 9 and 10 following an incident, with 30-minute delays clearing by 4 o'clock today. And on the trains, Grand Central services are experiencing disruptions through Stevenage and delays through Doncaster. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. Time's 3:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. An incredible £54,321 tax-free. And here's all the details you need for a chance to make it all yours.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now then, there are calls for a man who allegedly led a Muslim community boycott of South Yorkshire Police after the Rotherham grooming scandal to be stripped of his pending MBE. Mubin Hussain called on Muslims to sever ties with the police force and take all the necessary action to protect ourselves within the confines of the law. Back in October 2015. Now, this was just a year after the force's failure to investigate the thousands of allegations of the abuse and rape of white working-class girls that have been exposed. Now, however, Mr Hussain has strenuously denied claims that the police boycott was connected to the grooming gang investigation, instead saying the boycott was an attempt to urge police to do more to protect and connect with Muslims from rising Islamophobic attacks. Well, to react to this story, I'm joined by the former police investigator, John Taylor. John, welcome to the show. When this story was announced yesterday, there were a lot of people out there saying, how can somebody get an MBE for services to integration and cohesion, having previously advised Muslims in Rotherham not to cooperate with the police? What say you?
Good afternoon, Martin. Yeah, it sort of stinks of hypocrisy, you know, when you look at all the words. But obviously we have to break it down and look when and what was actually happening at the time, because you've now got Mr Hussain saying anybody who links the two is completely incorrect. But of course, at the time in 2015, when it was made, that sort of warning to the Muslim community went out. Basically, don't do this. Don't actually speak to the police. But of course, the police are part of the community as well. So the actual boycott wasn't just of the police. It was of any member of the Muslim part of Rotherham. They also would be like sent to Coventry if they actually spoke to the police. So you've got this whole issue around working with the police. And bear in mind, when we talk about this, you know, or awful grooming gang inquiries, I'll be the first to put the hands up and say the police didn't act at all well during the initial investigations. But subsequent investigations needs help from the community. It needs help from the whole community, and in particular from the mosques, from the imams, from people like Mr Hussain here. So to put something out like that certainly isn't about contributing to integration and social cohesion within Rotherham.
And John Taylor, central to the issue here is that claim. It came out in the first Alexis J report, as you said, when Theresa May was the Prime Minister, and it began the bedrock of the conversation moving forward. And that was that police had failed to act on rape gang allegations because of fears of being called racist. That is now seen to be factually true. It's been acknowledged in reports after reports, and yet at the time, Mr Hussain called this a pernicious lie. And so it was dead set against the report of the time. It's dead set against what we know now. Mr Hussain now works. He runs the All Parliamentary Party group on British Muslims and holds a House of Commons pass, supported incidentally by Labour's Naz Shah, Bradford West MP. Do you think there have been calls to withdraw this MBE? What do you say to that?
Yeah. There's an argument for it. I mean, you look at the whole process that anybody can nominate anyone in the country. As it stands at the moment, I don't, and I don't, yourself, Martin, you might know more than me. We don't know who nominated Mubin Hussain, but it's not there. It goes through the vetting process of civil servants within the Cabinet Office, and then it's approved basically for the King, or it does say by the King, but for the King. So there is an argument, basically because of the words that's being used for his contribution to integration and social cohesion. That really doesn't sound well when you know that go back just 10 years. But bear in mind, those investigations needed the help of the community. And a lot of that would have helped the victims. Why? Because when the victim goes in, there would have been all this wonderful continuity of victim actually making an allegation and the community saying, yes, we've got suspicions about this group of men who'd be doing this, that, and the other. But if they're not going to work with the police, the victims then don't get that. They don't get the support. So there's a lot to look at here. So yeah, the call for him to be stripped of the MBE does have some substance, but we've got to look at everything.
Now, it must be said, for context, Mobeen Hussain has said that any claims he led a police boycott to obstruct a grooming gang's investigation, he says, are outrageous, a lie and a smear, saying the boycotts had absolutely nothing to do with grooming gangs' investigations and was designed to raise awareness of rising Islamophobic attacks in and around Rotherham. And he also said he's consistently condemned grooming gangs and all perpetrators of child sexual exploitation since 2012. John Taylor, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Pleasure, thank you. Now, if you're in search of some holiday sun this year, then here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of dry weather, sunshine across much of Europe over the next few days. Hot in Turkey at the moment, temperatures above average. The risk of 1 or 2 showers across Greece into Italy, but many places dry. Lots of sunny spells again, a few showers into southern parts of France. Spain and Portugal, lots of sunshine, temperatures in the low 30s. A little more cloud towards the Canary Islands, a little breezy here too. Over the next few days, it remains hot and sunny across all areas.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Poll, it doesn't surprise either Bev or I, shows that most Brits believe that Britain is in decline. 76% of us, though, did surprise me, fear political unrest and even violence.
And those fears come amid violent riots, of course, in Ballymena in Northern Ireland. They've left dozens of police officers injured and the area largely destroyed in some cases, particularly the local leisure centre.
Let's talk to our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie. Doogie, this report comes on the back of sustained riots over, 6 days in the province?
They are putting undocumented immigrants into areas of high deprivation. There is a group here called Mears. 85% of their properties are in socially deprived areas, and those areas are now kicking back because in amongst those areas you have pensioners and so forth that have bought their houses back in the 80s. I spoke to a couple of them that were having to be moved out by their grandchildren.
Well, we know that people are not happy with. I think first thing to say is that people are worried about their living standards. They think they've declined, and actually strikingly, in a different part of the survey we found that 4 in 10 people feel like they were worse off since the COVID pandemic. That was actually particularly pronounced amongst reform voters, but overall people are very pessimistic about their personal finances and their cost of living. So I think that's a huge driver. We also know that people aren't happy with the government's handling of immigration, and actually going back to that question about what's affecting people's living standards, which I think is a much better way of getting at how people are feeling about things like the economy. People perceive, including Labour voters, including a sizable chunk of Labour voters, that immigration has had a negative impact on their living standards. And I do think we're starting to see that filter through into pessimism about the country as a whole.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome welcome back. It's 10 to 4. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a sculpture of the beautiful Lancaster bomber, which is set to be bigger than the Angel of the North, is nearing its completion. Thousands of pounds have been donated so far towards the project, but the group behind it estimates they still need another £30,000 to finish it off in time for its autumn reveal. Our reporter Jack Carson has been to see the progress of this wonderful build.
They'll get to know all about Lancasters in Nazi Germany and the rest of the occupied continent.
It remains one of the most recognisable planes ever built. During the war, Lancasters filled the skies of Lincolnshire as they completed missions across Europe. Today, this iconic aircraft is closer to immortalisation than ever before, with a 1-to-1 scale 100-ton steel sculpture almost at completion. GB News last saw the progress of the build back in September, and thanks to hundreds of hours of engineering, the bomber is taking shape.
OK, so this is the fuselage section that we're working on at the minute. This piece alone is an incredible 20 tonnes.
Timmins Engineering have made the vision come to life over the past few years, and designer Luke Hanford describes what it means.
I'm Lincolnshire born and bred. You know, we're a big county, but we're not very well recognised. It's nice to be able to put us on the maps, and it's a great recognition for those that have served in the military during war and beyond, and it's nice to give something back.
When it's finished, the plane will sit beside the A46 on the Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire border, taller than the Angel of the North. These huge steel posts will hold it in place to make it look like it's flying to passers-by.
Front fuselage, the front part of the plane is going to be facing north, and the rear tail section is facing south.
Charlie White is the chairman of the Bomber County Gateway Trust, the group responsible for the project.
Oh, it's spine-tingling all the time, you know, just to say that we're actually, every day we're a day closer to finishing the project. We didn't quite think at one stage we were going to get to this point, but we have. We've been very lucky with the public donations and private money that have come in to help build it. We think we need about £30,000 to finish the project, so we've got to buy some more of the steel, and we've got to pay for the company, the Timmins Engineering, who are helping build the project. We've got haulage in, we've got cranes, we've got other insurance and other things we need to pay for still that we just haven't quite got the money for. But hopefully, with help like this, we can get some donations and we can cross the finish line.
As the sparks in the workshop continue to fly, it won't be long before this Lancaster sculpture can too. Jack Carson, GB News, Lincolnshire.
It's an absolutely magnificent thing. Can you imagine going up the road there between Nottingham and Lincolnshire and seeing a huge Lancaster bomber swooping over the field? But they do need extra donations now. No, time is tight, money is tight, but if you can spare a few bob, then there is a fundraiser. You've got to go to justgiving.com and search for Bomber County, or just go to Google and put justgiving.com Bomber County. I just found it there. They are now. They can see the money going up as we speak, so please do try and put in all you can. Now, coming up in our next hour, we've got another sensational exclusive from Mark White's brazen footage of one illegal immigrant's journey from the slums of Calais, the camps, to the 4-star luxury Hotel Britannia, paid for by you, where the food is always free. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. But now's your weather with Alex Deakin.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, well, a wet day for some and a windy day in places as well. And for everywhere, it will be cooler and fresher. Now, many places have already turned cooler thanks to this area of low pressure. The weather front's tracking their way northwards, pushing away the very warm air that was with us through the weekend. Still pretty warm at the moment across East Anglia, but a few showers in here. Some heavy showers for North East England and Eastern Scotland. This line of rain continues to drift northwards through the early hours, and then lots of showers come in around that area of low pressure. Things turn pretty wet across Northern Ireland and windy in Wales and southwest England. A cooler night, temperatures dipping into the low teens, and a fresher feel on Tuesday, but a pretty wet start for parts of Northern Ireland, and quickly that rain spreading into southwest Scotland. Today's rain still lingering over the far north, but tending to ease off, and actually northern Scotland seeing some of the brightest weather tomorrow, but a wet start for southwest Scotland. That rain pulling away from Northern Ireland into North Wales, northwest England, where it will be a wet and windy day. These winds really picking up around the coast of Wales and southwest England. Unseasonably windy here, but quite a breezy, gusty day for many places tomorrow, and a wet day for much of Wales, northwest England. That rain creeping into northeast England, up towards the central belt of Scotland. Turns a bit brighter in Northern Ireland, but there'll still be plenty of showers here for the afternoon. The rain doesn't really reach East Anglia and the southeast until potentially late in the day. We could still get to 22 degrees here, but generally these temperatures 10 degrees or lower or more compared to the weekend. We'll see a bit of showery rain then clearing away to the east through Tuesday evening. Some welcome rain for some, of course. Wednesday's back to largely dry. Some patchy rain in the southwest and a few showers over northern England and southern Scotland. And showing signs of warming up a touch again in the south. Temperatures mostly in the low 20s.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A99 is closed between Latheron and Libster due to a serious collision, prompting motorists to seek alternative routes and expect delays. On the M4 Eastern route between Junction 6 and 5, only one lane is open. Further congestion is on the M6 southbound around Walsall with a lane closure. The M5 south between Junction 18 and 20 has congestion and delays. Planned maintenance on the M48 westbound across the Severn Bridge is causing diversions. And on the trains, Grand Central and Great Northern services are disrupted through Stevenage. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the
power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, breaking news this afternoon. The aristocrat, baby killer Constance Martin and her lover Mark Gordon found guilty of manslaughter this afternoon. And an incredible 1,400 illegal immigrants have landed in Britain since Keir Starmer's one-in, one-out deal with France. Well, today, Mark White brings GB News yet more astonishing exclusive footage of one illegal immigrant's journey from the Calais squalor to the 4-star luxury in Hotel Britannia. And as the government looks to plug a financial black hole, ministers continue to hint at tax rises on middle-class workers in the forthcoming autumn budget. While Labour set to break their pledge not to increase taxes on working people. And hundreds of armed forces veterans have taken to the streets of Westminster as we speak today, urging the government to stop and to axe the Unjust and Cruel Legacy Act. A petition of now over 170,000 Brits has forced a parliamentary debate. Doogie Beattie will be live from the protest, and of course we'll have that debate live in the show as it happens. And families whose loved ones have been murdered by mentally disordered killers are fearful they'll be locked out under a new government bill. The Victims and Courts Bill could leave victims with no legal right to information, consultation or appeal. I'll be joined by Emma Webber, whose son Barnaby Webber was killed by Nottingham psychopath Valdo Callaghan, and that's all coming up on today's show. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. In around about 30 minutes' time, a debate will begin in Parliament to repeal the Legacy Act to stop veterans being prosecuted for historic wrongdoings, particularly in Northern Ireland. Earlier on in the show, I was joined by Matthew Hellier, SAS veteran, saying Forces veterans are living in fear. They are spending their old age fearing lawsuits may come for decisions they made decades and decades ago, and also lamenting the fact that barely any terrorists from the IRA have ever similarly been pursued. Outside on the streets, hundreds of veterans are protesting. We'll join our man Doogie Beattie shortly to find out the mood on the ground ahead of this historic debate. That's with us on GB News. Get in touch the usual way, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so. But now it's your headlines, and here's Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you. The headlines at 4:03. Aristocrat Constance Martin and her partner, convicted rapist Mark Gordon, have been found guilty of the manslaughter of their newborn baby. 38-year-old Martin and 51-year-old Gordon went on the run with daughter Victoria in early 2023 after their 4 other children were taken into care. Police launched a nationwide hunt after their car burst into flames on the motorway near Bolton, and the couple were arrested after 7 weeks on the run. Following a search, police found their baby Victoria dead amid rubbish inside a little bag in a disused shed nearby. Martin and Gordon claim that their daughter died following a tragic accident after Martin fell asleep on her. Detective Superintendent Lewis Basford spoke outside the Old Bailey earlier.
Victoria's death was completely avoidable. The couple had plenty of opportunities to do the right thing and come forward to ask for help. They knew throughout that officers were looking for them and baby Victoria. They also ignored medical professionals who directly reached out to them to say that their actions were putting baby Victoria at risk.
Elsewhere today, 4 foreign nationals have died after a plane crashed and exploded at London Southend Airport yesterday afternoon, Essex Police have confirmed. Police say that the plane was heading to the Netherlands and that they are working to officially confirm the identities of the victims. The aircraft came down shortly after takeoff, rolling to the left before nosediving into grass near the runway. Images posted online showed large flames and a cloud of black smoke following the crash. The airport remains closed until further notice. Former MasterChef presenter Greg Wallace has said he is deeply sorry for the distress his behaviour caused and said he never set out to harm or humiliate. It comes as the BBC says it has no plans to work with Mr Wallace again after a report upheld 45 allegations of misconduct, including unwelcome physical contact. Most claims related to inappropriate sexual language and behaviour between 2005 and 2018. In a statement, Mr Wallace said that none of the serious allegations against me were upheld and that he challenged the remaining issue of unwanted touching, but has had to accept a difference in perception. The show's production company says it's extremely sorry to those affected, calling the report uncomfortable reading. The BBC and Banjay have issued apologies to staff subjected to his behaviour. The Culture Secretary says she's pleased that the BBC has acknowledged catastrophic failures after admitted breaching its own editorial guidelines. A review found the broadcaster failed to disclose a Gaza documentary was narrated by the son of a Hamas official. The film, Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone, was pulled from iPlayer earlier this year amid backlash. Production company Hoyo Films knew the boy's background, but no one at the BBC did. Director General Tim Davie called it a significant failing and pledged action to prevent it happening again. Ofcom has warned repeated failures like this risk eroding public trust. Thames Water is imposing a hosepipe ban from next Tuesday across parts of Oxfordshire, Gloucestershire, Wiltshire and Berkshire. It follows a weekend of record-breaking temperatures, but the third heat wave of the summer is now ending, with cooler air and heavy downpours moving in. Donald Trump says the US is sending very sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine, including Patriot missile defence systems. The president confirmed the support in a Sunday night speech, saying Ukraine desperately needs it. He also hit out at Vladimir Putin, accusing him of talking peace by day and bombing civilians by night. And almost 1,400 migrants have crossed the Channel since the UK and France signed a new returns deal last week. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has branded it a gimmick, claiming just 6% will be sent back under the agreement. He told GB News the Rwanda scheme was handed to Labour on a plate. Sir Keir Starmer is expected to meet Germany's Chancellor this week to discuss how to crack down on people smugglers. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3476 and €1.1533. The price of gold is £2,483.19 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 8,970 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Thank you, Katie. And we have some breaking news for you this afternoon. And the aristocrat Constance Martin and her partner Mark Gordon have been found guilty at the Old Bailey of the manslaughter of their newborn baby. And our Home and Security Editor Mark White joins us now for more. Mark White, the details of this case are extremely harrowing. At last, justice has been served. Tell us more.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, no one will really ever know what on earth was going through the minds of Constance Martin and Mark Gordon when they decided to take that newborn baby daughter of theirs on what was a sleeping rough evasion of the police for weeks before baby Victoria succumbed to the cold in the dead of winter and died. They said that they were trying to ensure that this young child was not taken into care by social services, as 4 other of Constance Martin's children were. Regardless, it resulted in a young girl, a young baby who should have had her whole life ahead of her, being denied any opportunity of life, living those 3 weeks in a little shopping bag. Absolutely horrific. I've been looking back at this terrible case.
Hello. Sorry, mate. You stop for a second.
On the outskirts of Brighton, the moment police finally catch up with Constance Martin and Mark Gordon, the end of almost 2 months on the run.
Put the stick down. Drop it now.
As police question the pair, it's obvious they've been living rough, and alarmingly, there's no sign of their baby.
Where's your child, my friend? Where's the child? My food, please. In a minute, where's your child?
The nationwide manhunt for the couple had begun in early January 2023 after the discovery of their car on fire at the side of a motorway in Greater Manchester. Later, as police examined the burnt-out car, they made a highly disturbing discovery. Wrapped in a towel on the back seat, a placenta. along with personal possessions, including Constance Martin's passport. A UK-wide investigation was launched, with officers seriously concerned for the safety of a newborn that hadn't received any medical attention.
Think of the baby and reach out to us, even at this early stage, just to let us know that you are okay and the baby is okay.
But the couple were determined to evade authorities. Over the coming weeks, they travelled hundreds of miles on public transport and in taxis. Occasionally caught on CCTV, like here in this transport hub in Bolton on the day their car caught fire. From here, they took a minicab to Merseyside. 2 days later, they travelled as far as East London. Here, they're seen leaving a taxi, Mark Gordon, with the little shopping bag which would be used to carry their baby daughter Victoria for much of the rest of her short life. But in these images, the infant is under her mother's coat. At a restaurant in East Ham that same day, the first clear images of baby Victoria being placed in a buggy the couple had just purchased in an Argos store. Inexplicably, they dumped the buggy just hours later, opting instead to carry the newborn in the shopping bag. Despite regular police appeals, accompanied by the release of more images, the manhunt seemed no closer to finding them.
It would have been a very, very difficult case to deal with. One of the things that made it especially difficult was the fact that Constance Martin had access to cash, a lot of cash. So there wasn't a facility or an ability to track them through credit cards or withdrawals or using normal bank services. So I think this is probably one of the most complex cases that I've ever come across.
Constance Martin was born into an aristocratic family. Her grandmother, a goddaughter of the late Queen Mother, her father, a page to Queen Elizabeth. But her relationship with her family broke down after she met Mark Gordon, who'd been deported to the UK after spending years in a US prison for rape. The couple have 4 other children, who were all taken into care after the involvement of social services. In her evidence to the Old Bailey, Martin claimed they'd gone on the run to avoid baby Victoria being taken into care as well. Just days after being reported missing, they'd arrived on the south coast, initially in Newhaven, then Brighton, where they camped off-grid in a tent on the South Downs. Later examination of CCTV shows them walking around the area and buying provisions. Constance Martin claimed baby Victoria died in her arms as she slept just days after she was born, and she and Gordon continued to carry her remains around with them in the shopping bag. But prosecutors said witnesses recalled seeing the child alive weeks after it's claimed she died. The pair were finally captured after a member of the public spotted them out walking on the outskirts of Brighton.
At the moment, you're under arrest for child neglect.
As it became clear officers had the missing couple, they tried desperately to get them to reveal where their child was.
Right, where's your child? Have we searched her?
With no cooperation from the pair, police reinforcements arrived to carry out a detailed search of the area as the nation held its breath. In one of the sheds on the allotment, the little shopping bag the couple had regularly used to carry baby Victoria. Inside, under a mound of rubbish, they found the baby's remains. A later examination was inconclusive on the cause of death. But the prosecution said there was little doubt the couple's own reckless actions in never seeking medical attention, in living off the grid in appalling conditions, had led to this completely avoidable tragedy. Mark White, GB News. Well, Constance Martin and Mark Gordon will return to the Old Bailey at a later date for sentencing.
For the updates on the most harrowing of cases. Now we have to cross now to the White House because President Trump is meeting with the NATO chief Mark Rutte. Let's cross over to that.
4 times a year for 22, 24 years, because they always knew they had to stop Iran from doing what that we're doing, which is trying to come up with a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb. And we did it very successfully. And we make the best equipment, the best missiles, the best of everything. The European nations know that. And we've made a deal today, and I'm going to have Mark speak about it, but we've made a deal today where we are going to be sending them weapons and they're going to be paying for them. The United States will not be having any payment made. We're not buying it, but we will manufacture it and they're going to be paying for it. Our last meeting of a month ago was very successful in that they agreed to 5%, which is more than $1 trillion a year, so they have a lot of money. And these are wealthy nations. They have a lot of money and they want to do it. They feel very strongly about it, and we feel strongly about it too. But we're in for a lot of money and we don't want to do anymore, and we can't. But we make the best, and we're going to be sending the best to NATO, and in some cases to maybe, at Mark's suggestion, if we go to Germany, where they're going to send early on missiles, and they'll be replaced, and NATO is going to take care of it. It's going to be coordinated by NATO, and they're going to work very much with Matt Whitaker, who's right here, who's a great ambassador, and Matt's going to be coordinating. You better do a good job, Matt.
I will.
But Matt's going to coordinate. He's a very talented guy. He's going to coordinate everything. So in a nutshell, we're going to make top-of-the-line weapons, and they'll be sent to NATO. NATO may choose to have certain of them sent to other countries where we can get a little additional speed, where the country will release something and it'll be mostly in the form of a replacement. And I'd like to have Mark, and again, just a highly respected, pretty young guy for having had the career that he's had, because he had an amazing career before going to NATO. So and we spent a lot of time together over the last couple of months. And if you could say a few words.
Absolutely. No, Mr. President, dear Donald, this is really big. This is really big. You called me on Thursday that you had taken a decision. And the decision is that you want Ukraine, what it needs to have to maintain, to be able to defend itself against Russia, but you want Europeans to pay for it, which is totally logical. And this is building on the tremendous success of the NATO summit. The 5%, but also the decision to keep Ukraine strong, and the decision to increase our defense industrial production. So based on that, that was Europe stepping up. This is again Europeans stepping up. So I've been in contact with many countries. I can tell you that at this moment, Germany massively, but also Finland and Denmark and Sweden and Norway, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Canada, they all want to be part of this, and this is only the first wave. There will be more. So what we will do is work through the NATO systems to make sure that we know what Ukrainians need, so that we can make packages. Of course, in a way, we discussed it this morning with Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon, in a way that, of course, the US will keep on its stockpiles necessary to defend this country. That's absolutely clear. But it will mean that Ukraine can get its hands on really massive numbers of military equipment, both for air defense, but also missiles, ammunition, etc., etc. So if I was Vladimir Putin today and hear you speaking about what you were planning to do in 50 days and this announcement, I would reconsider whether I should not take negotiations about Ukraine more seriously than I was doing at the moment, if I was Vladimir Putin. But when I'm Ukraine, I think this is really great news for them. So I really want to thank you for that. And it means the Europeans paying for it. And again, I mentioned all these countries, we will deal with that. And exactly as you said, it might also mean that countries will move equipment fast into Ukraine, and then the US later backfilling it, because speed is of the essence here. So really, thank you. This is important.
You did a great job. That's a really great job. We've been very successful in settling wars. You have India, Pakistan, you have Rwanda and the Congo. That was going on for 30 years. India, by the way, and Pakistan would have been a nuclear war within another week, the way that was going. That was going very badly. And we did that through trade. I said, we're not going to talk to you about trade unless you get this thing settled, and they did. And they were both great leaders, and they were great. But Rwanda and the Congo, that was going on for 30 years, and at least 7 million people killed, and killed with a lot of pretty rough weapons like machetes, heads chopped off, going on for many years. You couldn't even get near the countries. Nobody wanted to get near. It's so frightening. And we got that one solved. Serbia, Kosovo, got that solved. That was going to be one that was going to happen. And again, that was something I use. I use trade for a lot of things, but it's great for settling wars. That was really very important. We're working, Marco's working very hard with everybody here on the Strip, the Gaza Strip. I call it the Gaza Strip, one of the worst real estate deals ever made. They gave up the oceanfront property, one of the worst deals ever made. But it was supposed to bring peace, and it didn't bring peace. It brought the opposite. But we're doing pretty well on Gaza. Steve Witkoff is here, and I think we could have something fairly soon to talk about. And we solved another one, that we just seem to have, Armenia and Azerbaijan. It looks like that's going to come to a conclusion, successful conclusion. We worked on Egypt with a next-door neighbor who is a good neighbor. They're friends of mine, but they happened to build a dam which closed up water going into a thing called the Nile. I think if I'm Egypt, I want to have water in the Nile, and we're working on that one. It's a problem, but it's going to get solved. They built one of the biggest dams in the world, a little bit outside of Egypt. You know about that? You've been hearing about that one. And that turned out to be a big problem. I don't know. I think the United States funded the dam. I don't know why they didn't solve the problem before they built the dam. But it's nice when the Nile River has water. It's a very important source of income and life. It's the life of Egypt. And to take that away is pretty incredible. But we think we're going to have that solved very quickly. So we do good. The only one we haven't been able to get to yet is Russia. I'm not happy, and I will tell you that Ukraine wants to do something. Again, it's a war that should have never started. If I were president, it never would have happened. I used to speak to President Putin about it a lot. It was the apple of his eye. But once I saw what was going on, I said, they're gonna have a war here. I was outside, election was rigged, and I was outside looking in, and I said, that thing's gonna be a war. Couldn't believe it, because what Biden said was the exact opposite of what should have been said. And it started, and it's a real mess. We're losing, I guess they're losing 5,000 or 6,000 people a day. It's actually now more. I was saying 5,000 a day. It's actually more now. Mostly soldiers, but a lot of people in cities and towns that are getting blown up too. It's a horrible war, and it should be stopped. And so if it's not done, if we don't have an agreement in 50 days, that's what we're doing. Secondary tariffs, and they're biting. And I hope we don't get to the point where we do, but I've been hearing so much talk. It's all talk. It's all talk, and then missiles go into Kiev and kill 60 people. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. But the purpose of this is to say that this is a very big deal we've made. This is billions of dollars worth of military equipment is going to be purchased from the United States, going to NATO, etc. And that's going to be quickly distributed to the battlefield. Ukraine will take it up. And, say what you want about Ukraine. When the war started, they had no chance. And they still would have had no chance if the equipment, they had the best equipment, because we do make the best planes and missiles, and we make the best military equipment in the world by far. We have new things coming out that are beyond belief, and I'm very excited about the Golden Dome. It's going to give us very strong protection. We've already started that, but they had courage, because somebody has to use that equipment, and they fought with tremendous courage, and they continue to fight with tremendous courage. But they don't have. They're losing on equipment, and Russia's really taken a very positive, very strong. I mean, what they've done the last couple of weeks.
Without military reasons. So what they are doing is 700 drones a day, missiles, bombing cities. This is not because of military goals. It is just creating panic, keeping people out of their sleeps, hitting towns. It's really terrible, and it is meaning a lot of people lose their lives, but also the infrastructure, whole cities being
they're wiping out the electric. It's going to take years to rebuild it. That's going to be the next problem. Because, but that's going to take a long time. Many of the cities are knocked down to the to the ground. Many of the people have left, but many have stayed. I don't know. They actually stay. And most have stayed, actually. It's incredible that they stay, and knowing that a missile could be hitting your apartment house, and your apartment house that you're sitting in could collapse on top of you. And they do very heavy construction. They don't use rebar. They do very thick concrete construction. Those are heavy buildings, big buildings and heavy buildings, and they collapse like they're made out of paper. It's unbelievable to see this happening with people, so many people being killed. So we think we're going to make progress, and we hope we're going to make progress. In the meantime, we're going to get you good service on what you need. And we really became friendly with NATO this last meeting. You know, we went from 2% to 5%, which everyone said was not even a possibility. They weren't paying 2%. Many of them were paying much less than 2%.
But even those, since you became president, all committed to the 2% before the summit. And now collectively we committed to the 5%.
That's right, they did. And they've been very good. And I think I made a lot of friends over there. We had a couple of days of very intensive talks. And they're great people. They're leaders of countries. Leaders of countries. Many of them great countries, some of them smaller countries, but for the most part, I'd say very solid, strong countries, and very successful. Some of them are among the most successful countries in the world. So that's the story. We hope that's going to have an impact on Vladimir Putin, and we hope it's going to have an impact on Ukraine also. We want to make sure that Ukraine does what they have to do. All of a sudden they may feel emboldened, or maybe they don't want. You know, this is a very difficult situation.
Ukraine wants a peace deal.
I think so.
And they will stay committed to that, there's no doubt. They want it. But the Russians have to become
They have to continue to want it, though.
Yeah, I agree. But you and I will make sure of that.
All of a sudden they get no.
You and I will make sure of that.
We'll make sure. I feel confident that they will do what has to be done. Plus, we have certain parameters that both sides know, and we already know what should be done. So I think that's going to be it's going to be very strong. We want everlasting peace. Any questions, please? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. What was the tipping point for you in making this decision? Was it a conversation with President Putin? Was it a piece of intelligence? And why are you giving 50 more days?
I think I think it's a very short period of time. I think, don't forget, I've just really been involved in this for not very long. And it wasn't initial focus. This is a Biden war. This is a Democrat war, not a Republican or Trump war. This is a war that would have never happened. It shouldn't have happened. A lot of people being killed. When the final numbers come in, you're going to see a lot more people are being killed in this war than you think, than you've been writing about. It's a very deadly war. They're all bad, but this is a very deadly war. The numbers are going to be far greater. When an apartment house comes down, and they say 2 people were slightly injured. No, many people were killed. And those numbers will be at some point accurately reported. So far they're not. It's a deadly war. I think that you're just going to see, I think you're going to see strong movement. I hope so. I hope so.
And what about
the secondary tariffs are very, very powerful.
What about the tariffs that the Republicans in the House and the Senate have ready? Those were 500%. Sure. Why are you doing 100%?
Well, the Republicans are moving very strongly in the Senate, giving us total control of it, but I'm not sure we need it, but it's certainly good that they're doing it. And Lindsey Graham's working hard, the whole John Thune, all of them, they're all working hard. And they're in coordination with Mike Johnson, Speaker in the House. And I think they've actually crafted a pretty good piece of legislation. It's probably going to pass very easily. And that includes Democrats. And there's some little tweaks, but I don't want to say I don't need it because I don't want them to waste their time. It could be very useful. We'll have to see. But we can do secondary. We're probably talking about 100% or something like that.
So can you clarify?
We can do secondary tariffs without the Senate, without the House. But what they're crafting also could be very good.
So are you suggesting then that the Congress should move forward with those sanctions, the 500%, and that your 100 would be a separate additional package?
Yeah, I mean, the 500 is, sort of meaningless after a while because at a certain point it doesn't matter. It's not going to be, it's 100. 100 is going to serve the same function. But, I have it at 100%. They may have it, I don't know what they're going to end up with. They may have it at 100 too. They may have it at 500. But they're doing some good work in the House, and I think in the House and the Senate. And as you know, they're coordinated. and they can have it done quickly. They said they'll have it as quickly as I need it. So we'll see. We're talking to him. In fact, John Thune's coming over later on to talk.
Did you call for it yet?
Yeah, he's gonna come over.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is it your view that Vladimir Putin mischaracterized his dedication to? Is it your view that Vladimir Putin did not clarify his intention to a peace deal?
Well,
and what happens now in the next phase? Is there?
We're going to see. I mean, we're going to go for a period of time. Maybe he'll start negotiating. I think I felt, I don't know about you, Mark, but I felt that we had a deal about 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, still talking about
And he didn't send serious people to the negotiations. So I remember that you were able, with Marco Rubio and with Steve Witkoff, to get these talks going in Istanbul.
Yep.
I remember I was myself in Turkey for NATO business in May, and we really put pressure on the Ukrainians to send a senior team into Istanbul, and they did. But then the Russians came up with this historian explaining history of Russia since 1250.
We thought, and I thought, we should have had a deal done a long time ago. But it just keeps going on and on and on. And every night people are dying. A lot of people, a lot of Russian soldiers are dying, by the way. And a lot of Ukrainian soldiers too. But a lot of Russian soldiers are dying.
100,000 Russian soldiers since 1st of January. Since January. 100,000 Russian soldiers dead since January. So if anybody in Moscow is listening to this, again, 100,000 dead Russians since January. This is what President Putin is doing at the moment.
Yeah, please.
Will these be Patriot missiles specifically, or Patriot batteries that you're planning? And when do you
everything? It's Patriots. It's all of them. It's a full complement with the batteries.
And when do you expect them to arrive in Ukraine, sir?
Well, we're going to have some come very soon, within days actually. Because a couple of the countries that have Patriots are going to swap over, and will replace the Patriots with the ones they have, and Matt will coordinate with NATO. But so it's going to be, they're going to start arriving very soon.
And this afternoon, Boris Pistorius, the German defense minister, is visiting Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and we'll discuss also, I think, on this whole Patriot thing. Norway is involved, so that's on the Patriots, but this whole deal is also about missiles or ammunition, so it's broader than Patriots.
We have one country that has 17 Patriots getting ready to be shipped. They're not going to need them for them. So we're going to work a deal where the 17 will go, or a big portion of the 17 will go to the war side.
Mr. President.
That can be done very quickly.
Mr. President.
Mr. President,
yeah, please.
Could this transaction with NATO be viewed as a step towards achieving peace, letting Putin know that now Zelensky has a little bit more powerful tools in his tool chest, and maybe that brings him to the table to achieve peace? Because I know that you wanted to do that.
Brian, that's what we've been saying. I think you might have expressed it better if you wanted to.
I'm just trying to
exactly what
that was a summary.
That was a nice summary. I think he's done better than us. He's a very good guy, I can tell you that. But no, it's well said. Yeah, I think this is a chance at getting peace. Or it's just going to be the same thing. I have to tell you, Europe has a lot of spirit for this war. A lot of people, when I first got involved, I really didn't think they did, but they do. And I saw that a month ago, and you were there, many of you were there. The level of esprit de corps, spirit that they have is amazing. They really think it's a very, very important thing to do, or they wouldn't be doing it. Look, they're agreeing to, they're paying for everything. We're not paying anymore. We have an ocean separating us. I said, we have a problem. We make the best stuff, but we can't keep doing this. And Biden should have done this years ago. He should have done it from the beginning, but he didn't. He didn't know he was there. This guy, what a horrible job they did for this country. And I just hope between the border and this and so many other, inflation, what a horrible administration. The worst administration in history, in my opinion. It's not my opinion. I think it's everybody's opinion. But this is something that shouldn't have happened, and we're going to see if we can end it.
If I can follow up.
I do want to make one statement. Again, I said it before. This is not Trump's war. We're here to try and get it finished and settled and whatever. Because nobody wins with this. This is a loser from every standpoint.
From day
this
one.
Was Biden, and this was other people. And it's very sad. It's a very sad situation. This gentleman's doing a great job. I think he's going to get it, and Matt and everybody else that's working on it. I think he'll get this thing over with. Hopefully.
Mr. President, you've praised European countries today as standing up for Ukraine, as being strong. Will you allow them to continue to negotiate tariffs lower than 30% before August 1st, or is the deal set at this point?
What does that mean? You mean you're talking about the tariffs?
On trade, on tariffs.
You're back on tariffs. You're on a more friendly tariff, right? A little bit more friendly tariff.
Perhaps.
No, we're going to be talking to people. We have, I watched the show this morning. They were talking about, well, when's he going to make the deal? The deals are already made. The letters are the deals. The deals are made. There are no deals to make. They would like to do a different kind of a deal, and we're always open to talk. We are open to talk, including to Europe. In fact, they're coming over. They'd like to talk to us.
Mr. President, is there any concern about the U.S. stockpiles? There was a pause in delivery of weaponry to Ukraine in order to evaluate, apparently, the U.S. stockpiles. What came out of that?
Evaluation. I mean, this was a very big, what we're talking about today is a very, very big day. And what Pete was doing, and me too, I knew what Pete was doing, was evaluation, because we knew this was going to happen. And now we actually announced it. They voted on it. It's all been done. So obviously that has a big impact on, when you say pause, obviously you're not going to be doing things if you don't know what's going to happen here. But we were pretty sure this was going to happen, so we did a little bit of a pause. But this is a very big, event today. This is something
Mr. President, if Putin escalates further, how far are you willing to go in response?
In what?
How far are you willing to go if Putin were to escalate, send more bombs in the coming days?
Don't ask me a question like that. How far? I want to get the war settled. They're not Americans that are dying in it, and I have a problem, and JD has a problem. It's a stance that he's had for a long time. They're not Americans dying, but there are a lot of people dying, and on something that should be able to be settled. And we all agree with that. This group of people, we want to defend our country, but ultimately, having a strong Europe is a very good thing. It's a very good thing. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, please, in the back.
Yeah, is there a ceiling on what the Europeans are willing to pay for? And it sounds like, are you ruling out the U.S. paying for from additional weapons through drawdown authority?
Shall I try to answer that? Because basically what the President is saying, that he is willing, of course, taking consideration what the U.S. needs itself. So it's not that you can have a shopping list and you can order whatever you want, because the U.S. has to make sure that the U.S. keeps its hand on what the US needs, also to keep the whole world safe, because in the end you are the police agent of the whole world. You're the most powerful nation on earth, the most powerful military on earth. But given that, the US has decided to indeed massively supply Ukraine with what is necessary through NATO. Europeans 100% paying for that. And what we have been doing over the last couple of days is talking with countries, and I just mentioned the ones who in the first wave immediately said, we want to chip in. And then you are really talking about big numbers. Take Germany visiting today. They're really talking about big numbers.
Can we get some clarity?
I will say that I spoke with Germany, spoke with most of the larger countries, and they are really enthusiastic about this. They want to, and they're willing to go very far. I will tell you, as per your question, how far would I go? They want to go very far. They don't want this to happen. That's why I think from Putin's standpoint, it would really be good. He gets the country's economy is doing very poorly, and he's got to get his economy back. He's got to save his economy. He could save his country in a sense, but the economy can destroyed a lot of countries over the years. He wants to get that economy back, and he's got a great country for trading and other things. If they could use the assets instead of war, he's got some tremendous potential. That's what I would say.
How did you deliver this news to Putin, sir?
Say?
How did you tell Putin this was coming?
I speak to him a lot about getting this thing done. And I always hang up and say, well, that was a nice phone call. And then missiles are launched into Kiev or some other city. And I said, it's strange. And after that happens 3 or 4 times, you say, the talk doesn't mean anything. My conversations with him are always very pleasant. I say, isn't that a very lovely conversation? And then the missiles go off that night. I go home, I tell the First Lady, I spoke to Vladimir today. We had a wonderful conversation. She said, oh, really? Another city was just hit. So it's like, look, he's, I don't want to say he's an assassin, but he's a tough guy. It's been proven over the years. He's fooled a lot of people. He fooled Bush. He fooled a lot of people. He fooled Clinton, Bush, Obama, Biden. He didn't fool me. But what I do say is that at a certain point, ultimately talk doesn't talk. It's got to be action. It's got to be results. And I hope he does it. It's potentially such a great country to be wasting so many people on this and the money. And look at what's happened to his economy. Look at what's happened. So,
and with the threat in 50 days,
yeah,
the economy will be hit very hard.
I mean, look, I hope he's going to do it. He knows the deal. He knows what a fair deal is. If there is such a thing as a fair deal, there's no winners here. This is a loser. This is a loser. And I dealt with him from the beginning. It wouldn't have happened, but I will say Ukraine was the apple of his eye. We talk about it. It was the apple of his eye, but it wasn't going to happen. And he understood that. It wasn't going to happen. And then I noticed, after I was out, I noticed soldiers forming at the border.
Yeah.
And then I heard horrible, stupid things being said from the other side. And I said, they're really handling it very, very wrong. It's a shame. Yeah.
Can I add one thing, and that is about President Trump, because you came in office in January. On the 12th of February, you had your first phone call with Putin. I think you did exactly what I hoped you would do. That is breaking the deadlock, starting the conversation, because you have to test him. I know Putin very well from the days when I was Prime Minister in the Netherlands. You have to test him. And you did this, and you really gave him a chance to be serious, to get to the table, to start negotiations. Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, we all try to help you. But you've now come to a point where you're saying, well, hey...
We actually thought we had probably 4 times the deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have called and you said, this looks good.
Yeah.
And then the deal wouldn't happen because bombs would be thrown out that night and you'd say, we're not making any deals. It was like...
But you breaking the deadlock was crucial because you had to start that process. And you were the only one who was able to do that.
I think we'll get it done.
Do you think he's reasonable enough to negotiate an end to this?
I think we're going to get it done. I think, look, this is a very powerful situation. You have very wealthy countries buying the best equipment in the world. And we have the best equipment in the world. We make equipment like no other. Our submarines, nuclear submarines, are so powerful. They're the most powerful weapon ever built. And we have the best in the world they're 20 years behind, 25 years behind us. We have the greatest equipment anywhere in the world. I just hope we don't have to use it. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. On a separate topic here, President Biden, of all people, spoke to the New York Times over the weekend. He did not speak to them on the record during his time in office at all, but he spoke to them recently. And he defended his use of the auto pen and said that he signed off on every decision. But at the same time, the Times reports that he did not individually approve each name for the categorical pardons that applied to large numbers of people. What are your take on that? Any new revelations from that?
Well, I mean, you're talking about the auto pen. Look, the auto pen, I think, is maybe one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years. This is a tremendous scandal. And I know the people on the other side of see that desk, that Resolute desk? Unfortunately, he used it before me. But, we have our choice of 7 desks. They're all beautiful. But I chose the Resolute, and so did he, unfortunately. But the people on the other side of the Resolute desk, I know them. Lisa, the whole group, and they're no good. They're sick people. And I guarantee you he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee it. So they're going to figure it out, and we'll see what happens. But to me, the auto pen, you elected president. You know what the auto pen is supposed to do? Sign thousands of letters from young people that write. We get thousands of letters a week, Susie, right? Thousands. I mean, tens of thousands sometimes. I look at there's a room where we have many, many people working, responding and sending letters back. That's what an auto pen's supposed to be. To write to a young 7-year-old boy that writes to the president and he wants to be president someday and he loves America. That's what the auto pen's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be for signing major legislation and all the things. No, the auto pen, and I doubt he knew. I doubt I doubt they even spoke to him about it. I think they had, it's called a freewheeling autopen. Like, Biden was never for open borders. Biden was never for transgender for everyone. So I don't think I think the radical left people that took over the White House, and if I didn't win, our country was finished. You know, when I was in, and I said this a couple of times, I hope I don't bore you with it, but when I was in Saudi Arabia, I was in Qatar, I was in UAE, and then I met with all of your leaders, yes, including you, a great leader. He's now the leader of many countries, not just
No.
But I met with a lot of leaders over the last 2 months in the Middle East and all of the NATO countries. And I will tell you, they had one common phrase. They thought America was dead 1 year ago. And today they say, and they all say it, and I hope you'll back me up in this, but they say now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. It is. Look at our numbers. Look at the numbers we made. You see, we made $25 billion last month. We didn't make that for years. The tariffs are kicking in. The economy is very strong, even though we have a Fed person who's terrible. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but that's all right. We blow through interest rates. We're doing so well, we blow through it. Be nice because people would be able to buy housing a lot easier. But think of it. We thought your country was dead, and they were dealing with China because they were really going to China. But not anymore. But we thought your country was dead, and now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So we've done a really good job, and it's an honor to have this man. This man is a star, and he's going to be dealing with another one of my stars, Matt, and you're going to do a great job, Matt Whitaker. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, and that was President Donald J. Trump there at the White House speaking with the NATO chief, Mark Rutte. If you're just joining us on GB News just before 10 to 5, a quick update on that lengthy press conference. The top line, the United States is expected to send billions of dollars worth of military hardware, not to Ukraine, but to NATO. And NATO will pay for them, including 17 Patriot missiles. Now, they cost $4 million each. Billions of dollars of hardware being sent to NATO via Donald Trump. Now, if you recall, when Donald Trump was in opposition, he said, I will end the war with Ukraine and Putin in 24 hours. 6 long months later, that's not happening. President Trump there lamented the fact 4 times they've almost been on the cusp of a deal with Vladimir Putin, but that same evening, bombs were flying, and he said, I tell you, I'm not happy, and then threatened an additional 100% tariffs against Russia if they don't comply within 50 days. The war of words, the war of tariffs, and huge amounts of arsenal being sent to NATO, which will be sent to Ukraine to use against Vladimir Putin. But crucially, this is not America supplying directly to Ukraine, but via NATO. I'm joined in the studio by GB News' political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, a hugely important point to pick out here is that anything that Donald Trump sends to NATO isn't free. In fact, it's paid for by NATO members. That includes British taxpayers.
And that's why there'll be a bill for us from that press conference there. Yeah. I mean, viewers or listeners wondering why we're focusing on Donald Trump in that meeting with Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary-General, because that bill will end up coming out of our defence budget at some point in the future. That's why it's so important. And looking at the Moscow Stock Exchange, it has jumped because they thought it could be 500% tariffs, not 100% tariffs, if there's no deal within 50 days. Yet again, we hear concerns about loss of life from Donald Trump. And for me, what drives this story, to take away the kind of Trump derangement syndrome, what is driving this story, I think, is here's a guy who's nearly 80. He's a grandfather. He doesn't want to see loss of life. And if he can find a way to end it, he does. He sees both sides of the ledger. We know about the Russian losses of life. Mark Rutte there saying 100,000 Russian soldiers killed since January. But there are also big numbers on the Ukrainian side, which are not disclosed to the West. They are big too, and he'll see the whole picture. And what's driving it, I think, is a need to end the war. And he's clearly getting more and more frustrated with Vladimir Putin. He says he gets on off the phone with Vladimir Putin, thinks that was a nice call. And then he says, and pretty soon the missiles are raining down on Kyiv. That's what's going on.
Yeah, and he was lamenting here the fact 100,000 Russian deaths since January the 1st, Mark Rutte there. And Donald Trump, and you're quite right, Chris Hope, keeps underlining the sheer volume of the loss of life, the sheer carnage there. But I have to interrupt. We've got a breaking news line for you here, and it is this. The BBC, beg your pardon, so NATO, some breaking news, Ofcom have opened an investigation into the BBC over their Gaza documentary. Now, a spokesperson from the regulator say, having examined the BBC's findings, we are launching an investigation under our rule, which states that factual programmes must not materially mislead the audience. Now, this is a huge breaking news story. That documentary, if you recall, was voice-overed, it was documented by a relative of somebody who was serving in Hamas. To repeat that breaking news line, Ofcom, the broadcasting regulator, has opened an investigation into the BBC over their Gaza documentary. A spokesperson from the regulator say, having examined the BBC's findings, we are launching an investigation under our rule, which states that factual programmes must not materially mislead the audience. Chris Hope, a huge story here. The BBC under huge amounts of fire, of course, for Glastonbury, over the Greg Wallace situation. Now, this is a real hammer blow for them.
I'm looking now at remarks made by Dame Melanie Dawes. She's the Ofcom chief executive. She said yesterday the BBC needs to get a grip quicker on these emerging scandals. This review had looked at Gaza, how to survive a war zone. Clearly, Dame Melanie feels that they haven't learned their lessons properly. They've marked their own homework so far, but Ofcom is now investigating the BBC. I can't think of an occasion when it's happened before, because only recently, relatively, has Ofcom got the right to investigate the BBC. But it says here, in remarks here from Dame Melanie Dawes just yesterday, she said that the BBC would need to get a grip quicker, get these reports and investigations concluded sooner. Otherwise, there's a risk of losing and suffering the loss of confidence in the BBC, which is a shame. So clearly, this is a wake-up call for our corporation.
And it's worth mentioning that historically, the BBC has ostensibly been allowed to mark its own homework. When Ofcom lodges a complaint, or when people lodge complaints with Ofcom and it goes to the BBC, for a long time, the BBC has been able to deal with it internally. And oftentimes that dampens down or makes the Ofcom investigations go away. This, Chris Hope, is very different indeed. Just to repeat that breaking news, if you're joining us shortly before the hour of 5 o'clock, some breaking news. Ofcom has opened an investigation into the BBC over their Gaza documentary. A spokesperson from the regulator says, having examined the BBC's findings, we are launching an investigation under our rule, which states that factual programmes must not materially mislead the audience. Chris, I've got some more news for us.
This comes on the same day as the BBC admitted that this documentary breached its own guidelines on accuracy. The film was pulled, as we know, from the iPlayer back in February. It emerged that the 13-year-old narrator was a son of a Hamas official. This review found that the BBC had not been sufficiently proactive with initial editorial checks with an independent company which made the film. And for its part, the filmmaker says it will improve processes and prevent similar problems in the future. Well, it's moving on very rapidly from that. Clearly, Ofcom think you've admitted your mistakes here. We'll have a look too.
OK, well, that's a huge breaking news. So we'll have more of that after the top of the next hour. With me, Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel. Stay with us, but first, here's your weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, well, a wet day for some and a windy day in places as well. And for everywhere, it will be cooler and fresher. Now, many places have already turned cooler thanks to this area of low pressure. The weather front's tracking their way northwards, pushing away the very warm air that was with us through the weekend. Still pretty warm at the moment across East Anglia, but a few showers in here. Some heavy showers for North East England and eastern Scotland. This line of rain continues to drift northwards through the early hours, and then lots of showers come in around that area of low pressure. Things turn pretty wet across Northern Ireland and windy in Wales and southwest England. A cooler night, temperatures dipping into the low teens, and a fresher feel on Tuesday, but a pretty wet start for parts of Northern Ireland, and quickly that rain spreading into southwest Scotland. Today's rain still lingering over the far north, but tending to ease off, and actually northern Scotland seeing some of the brightest weather tomorrow, but a wet start for southwest Scotland. That rain pulling away from Northern Ireland into North Wales, northwest England, where it will be a wet and windy day. These winds really picking up around the coast of Wales and southwest England. Unseasonably windy here, but quite a breezy, gusty day for many places tomorrow, and a wet day for much of Wales, northwest England. That rain creeping into northeast England, up towards the central belt of Scotland. Turns a bit brighter in Northern Ireland, but there'll still be plenty of showers here for the afternoon. The rain doesn't really reach East Anglia and the southeast until potentially late in the day. We could still get to 22 degrees here, but generally these temperatures 10 degrees or lower or more compared to the weekend. We'll see a bit of showery rain then clearing away to the east through Tuesday evening. Some welcome rain for some, of course. Wednesday's back to largely dry. Some patchy rain in the southwest and a few showers over northern England and southern Scotland, and showing signs of warming up a touch again in the south. Temperatures mostly in the low 20s.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Drivers on the A92 southbound should be cautious of delays between Red House Roundabout and Chapel Interchange due to a broken down vehicle. Diversions remain effective on the M487 bridge westbound amidst ongoing roadworks. In Kent, a collision on the M25 anti-clockwise exit slip at Junction 3 has one lane closed. And on the trains, significant disruption continues on Avanti West Coast between Rugby and Stafford, and also between Carlisle and Motherwell. Cross-country services are experiencing major disruption through Doncaster. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Chu, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, as the government looks to plug a financial black hole, ministers continue to hint at tax rises on middle-class workers in the autumn budget. Are Labour set to break their pledge not to increase taxes on working people? And huge breaking news in this past 10 minutes. The broadcast regulator Ofcom has opened an investigation into the BBC over their Gaza documentary, Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone. A spokesperson say our rule, which states that factual programmes must not materially mislead the audience, has been breached. Is this fair action against the national broadcaster? And hundreds of armed forces veterans have today taken to the streets of Westminster, urging the government to axe the Unjust and Cruel Legacy Act. A petition now of over 170,000 has forced a parliamentary debate, which is taking place as we speak. Our reporter Doogie Beattie will be live from the protest. And families whose loved ones have been murdered by mentally disordered killers are fearful that they will be locked out under a new government bill. The Victims and Courts Bill could leave victims with no legal right to information, consultation or appeal. I'll be joined by Emma Webber, whose son Barnaby Webber was killed by the Nottingham psychopath Valdo Callaghan. That's all coming on today's show. Well, show, a pleasure to have your company. Huge breaking news in these past 10 minutes. The broadcast regulator Ofcom has found against investigating the BBC into their documentary Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone. They said it breached due impartiality in terms of its narrator, which of course was a 13 or 14-year-old child who was found to be the daughter of a Hamas operative. Surely now, huge pressure is mounting on Tim Davies, the BBC Director General, lest we forget the Glastonbury outrage over Bob Villan, and now this latest scandal. Surely, on top of Greg Wallace as well, they keep coming, these scandals, to the BBC, but this is the most serious. Ofcom now probing the BBC. We'll be exploring that story throughout the rest of this hour. I'll be joined by the director of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism for his take. And of course, Chris Hope, our political editor, in the studio for the full live political reaction and that debate in Parliament on military veterans. And we'll be live from Parliament Square to catch up with veterans out there. So much in the next hour. Don't go anywhere. But now here's your headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you. The headlines at 3 minutes past 5 and breaking news this afternoon. Ofcom has launched an investigation into the BBC over its Gaza documentary. Earlier today, the BBC admitted that the programme Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone, breached its own editorial guidelines. A review found the broadcaster failed to disclose that the documentary was narrated by the son of a Hamas official. The film was pulled from iPlayer earlier this year amid backlash. Production company Hoyo Films knew the boy's background, but no one at the BBC did. A statement from Ofcom has read, having examined the BBC's findings, we're launching an investigation under our rule which states that factual programmes must not materially mislead the audience. The Culture Secretary earlier said that she's pleased the BBC has acknowledged catastrophic failures, and Director General Tim Davies called it a significant failing and pledged action to prevent it happening again. Elsewhere, aristocrat Constance Martin and her partner, convicted rapist Mark Gordon, have been found guilty of the manslaughter of their newborn baby. 38-year-old Martin and 51-year-old Gordon went on the run with daughter Victoria in early 2023 after their 4 other children were taken into care. Police had launched a nationwide hunt after their car burst into flames on the motorway near Bolton, and the couple were arrested after 7 weeks on the run. Following a search, police found their baby Victoria dead amid rubbish inside a little bag in a disused shed nearby. Martin and Gordon claimed that their daughter died following a tragic accident after Martin fell asleep on her. Detective Superintendent Lewis Basford spoke outside the Old Bailey earlier.
Victoria's death was completely avoidable. The couple had plenty of opportunities to do the right thing and come forward to ask for help. They knew throughout that officers were looking for them and baby Victoria. They also ignored medical professionals who directly reached out to them to say that their actions were putting baby Victoria at risk.
Let's cross live now to the House of Commons, where Home Secretary Yvette Cooper is speaking, I do believe.
Vote can for the first time be readmitted to France. This is the right thing to do and is also an important step towards undermining the business model of the organised crime groups behind these crossings. So we've agreed to establish a safe reciprocal exchange mechanism for individuals in France who apply with appropriate documentation to be transferred to the UK subject to clear eligibility criteria and stringent security checks. Transfers to the UK under the new route will match the number readmitted to France on a one-for-one basis. Further details of this scheme will be set out in the immigration rules once final arrangements are in place. And this innovative agreement means people who undertake illegal, dangerous journeys to the UK, putting their own and other people's lives at risk and paying money to fuel an entire criminal industry, being returned to France, where the boats set off from. And in return, we will take people who apply lawfully, who pass security checks, with priority given to those who have a connection with the UK, those who are most likely to be refugees or are most vulnerable to smuggler gangs. So yes, this is the right thing to do, establishing a principle that whilst the UK will always be ready to play its part alongside other countries in helping those fleeing persecution and conflict, we believe this should be done through a controlled and managed legal way, not through dangerous, illegal, uncontrolled or criminal routes. And it's also the first step to undermining the promise made by criminal gangs when they tell people that if they travel to the UK, they cannot be returned to the continent. Now they can be. And we will develop the pilot step by step and trial different approaches as part of it, varying the numbers and seeking the most effective ways to undermine the gangs, to reduce boat crossings, and also to help France deal with the problems that they face in the Calais region. The Prime Minister and French President set out their expectation that this will be operationalised in the coming weeks. Fifth, we will take stronger action on illegal working and asylum failures here in the UK, because for far too long it has been too easy for people to work illegally in the UK and for employers to exploit them, undercutting responsible businesses. Already, we have increased illegal working raids and arrests by 50% since the election. Already, we have more than tripled the value of employer penalties issued to over £89 million. And we've launched a new surge in enforcement linked to the gig economy, with changes to the law in the Borders Bill to compel companies to conduct proper checks on the right to work. And we will also bring forward further reforms to the asylum system to prevent its operation being exploited either by gangs to encourage travel to the UK or for people here illegally to find unfair ways to stay. So we need to be part of the global response to irregular and illegal migration, not separate from it. Working in partnership, not just shouting and pointing at the sea. Everyone knows that there is no single silver bullet to tackle illegal migration and dangerous boat crossings. And it takes time to unpick the deep roots that gangs have put down and to build the foundations of a new cross-border approach. But that is what we're determined to do, Stronger borders, stronger law enforcement in France and in the UK, increasing returns, and building the foundations of a new long-term approach where countries cooperate to prevent illegal migration and to ensure that there is sanctuary for genuine refugees. No one should be making these dangerous boat journeys which undermine our border security and put lives at risk. That is why this cooperation between the UK and France is so important, and I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Home Secretary for advance sight of her statement. The Home Secretary comes here today sounding rather pleased with herself. I'm afraid she has no reason to. A year ago, she promised to smash the gangs. She said again and again that was her plan. Indeed, it was her only plan. Yet today, there is no mention of what was once her favourite catchphrase. That is because her claim to smash the gangs has become a joke, an embarrassment to her and to the government. Now, we warned that law enforcement alone would not be enough. So did the National Crime Agency. But she didn't listen, and what then happened? The 12 months following July the 5th last year have been the worst such period in history for small boat crossings. 44,359, up 40% year on year. The first 13 days of July this month have also been the worst in history. 2,510 in less than 2 weeks, up 213% year on year. And this calendar year so far has been the worst in history as well, up 57% on last year. Madam Deputy Speaker, she is setting records, just all the wrong ones. These boat crossings are now the worst ever. Does she accept that she has lost control of our borders and she is failing in her most basic duty to protect the United Kingdom? Now, she says she has a new deal with France. Yet President Macron says this needs EU agreement. Is this true? Does it need EU agreement? And if so, have they provided it? And a deal must of course involve an agreed number. Yet when the Home Secretary is asked, she is unable to say...
OK, and that was Chris Philp there, the Shadow Home Secretary, responding to Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary. We are building new foundations, she said, in terms of the UK-France one-in, one-out migration deal. Chris Hope, you were watching that. I don't think we heard anything new there, do you?
Nothing new there. We were looking out for any suggestion there could be a return deal with Iraq.
Yes.
That's moved over the weekend. It's been in the works for a bit now, I think, in the Home Office. Nothing yet, though. We're monitoring that Q&A there with the Home Secretary to bring you the developments as soon as we get them.
OK, well, let's get back now to our top breaking news story this hour. And it's this. Ofcom, the broadcast regulator, has opened an investigation into the BBC over their Gaza documentary called How to Survive a War Zone. And a spokesperson from the regulator says, having examined the BBC's findings, we are launching an investigation under our rule, which states that factual programmes must not materially mislead its audience. Quick reaction for you, Chris Hope, on this. It is a significant story. The BBC has been through a string of scandals recently. Gaza, of course, topping the list. Before that, still right now, Greg Wallace is under the cosh. Bob Villan, Glastonbury, death to the IDF, that chant that went around the world, caused huge scandal, Strictly Come Dancing, Hugh Edwards, the list goes on. This latest one, very significant.
Yes, getting more so. The ability to look after themselves has been removed by Ofcom. They have the right to investigate, they're doing so. It seems to me the net is closing in on senior management there. Number 10 tell us today the BBC must learn and take swift action, Martin, from the corporation's findings. That's before Ofcom announced its inquiry. On the issue of Greg Wallace, Number 10 said it welcomes the decision to sever ties with him, and it must take action to restore and deal with this issue of breaches of trust. And it's on Tim Davies' future, because all roads go back to him. Number 10 said they have confidence in the chair and its board, and that follows their confidence in Tim Davie, the Director General. But it does seem to me that there's a crisis emerging rapidly at the corporation.
It is. Well, let's get our next guest on board now. That's the Chief Executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Gideon Falter. Gideon, thanks for your patience, and please welcome to the show. Your reaction to this astonishing breaking news story. You've been outspoken in the extreme, saying Tim Davie, simply, you believe now, must go.
He absolutely has to go, and I think that's very, very clear. It's why Ofcom must be stepping in now, because up until now, Ofcom has looked at this and they've said, well, the government says that unlike all other broadcasters with the BBC, we have to give them special treatment. We have to wait for the BBC to carry out its own investigations before Ofcom can step in. So Ofcom's been sitting and waiting, saying, let's see what the BBC does. Now the BBC has released this report, the timing of which, by the way, is very suspect. They released their report on Greg Wallace just before they released this Gaza report, almost as though they were trying to bury the Gaza report under the professional corpse, as it were, of Greg Wallace's career, and just try and sort of issue two reports at the same time, hoping one of them doesn't get noticed. The report itself from the BBC is shocking. It says things like that they don't think that it has any bearing on impartiality, that they had the son of a Hamas official, a senior top Hamas official, narrate this documentary. They don't think that that had any impact on impartiality. So the report itself is completely weaselly. It's trying to exonerate the BBC, and now Ofcom has had a look at it. They've had a chance to digest it, and they've said, no, not good enough. We're launching our own investigation.
And Gideon Falter, I wonder if this points to a feeling of imperviousness, of invulnerability, the fact that BBC in many ways seems to feel and act as though it's above broadcasting law. And beyond that, Gideon Falter, a sense of a culture within the BBC. Lest we forget former BBC top brass Gary Lineker publicly threw his weight behind this documentary.
Well, absolutely right. And this is Gary Lineker, who had to leave the BBC under a cloud after he posted that video which claimed to explain Zionism with a picture of a rat, which, you know, doesn't need an awful lot of explanation. You don't have to go very far back in history to find people portraying Jews as rats. And then you've got, as you were just listing before, all these other scandals, one atop another. And you just have to ask yourself, the BBC in this report accepts that it sent money to the family of a Hamas official. And they're trying to say the response to that has to be, we're going to update some guidelines somewhere. Imagine any other institution, taxpayer funded, that sent money to the family of a proscribed terrorist organization. And at the end of it, they say no one's going to lose their job. The senior people at the top, who not only have done this, but also presided over the Gary Lineker debacle, the Glastonbury debacle, and many others, those people are not going to be threatened at all. We're just going to change our guidelines. It's absolutely an attitude and a culture of unaccountability. And worse than that, there is this bias now which has been fueling hatred and division in this country for a very long time. And Ofcom, what we've been calling for is for Ofcom and an external investigation to come in. That's now happening. The BBC, just like these other self-righteous organisations that you find throughout time, including, for example, the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn, they need that cleansing power to come from outside in order to root out the anti-Semitism. And what we're actually hoping is that Lisa Nandy, who's been very strong on this, the Culture Secretary, is going to come in, and she's also going to say, this is absolutely not good enough. Tim Davie needs to go. There are others also in the top brass of the BBC who reviewed this documentary and stood by it. They need to go as well. And we're actually holding, on the 7th of September, we're now holding a Britain's March Against Anti-Semitism. And we're actually now, as a result of this, in discussion with the police about bringing that march past the BBC, because over 90% of British Jews now consider that our national broadcasters' coverage on issues relating to Jews is unfavourable. And this report just absolutely does nothing to shore up anybody's confidence in the BBC to fix that.
I have to say, Gideon Falter, absolutely, it's just incredible. that we're even having this conversation, that British Jews feel afraid in our country. It brings great shame, I believe, on our entire nation. Gideon Falter, the Chief Executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, thank you very much for joining us. Now, very quickly, Chris Hope, you've got breaking news line for us.
MPs have called the BBC bosses to give evidence in a hearing in Parliament in September. Tim Davey, the Director General, Samir Shah, the Chairman, in public grilling on issues of Greg Wallace, Bob Villan and the Gaza documentary. A real moment, I think, for their future, possibly. Certainly focusing on that were their actions in September.
There'll be a huge conversation around the Royal Charter, around the fact that BBC is paid for by licence payers. Huge breaking story. Thank you very much, Chris Hope. Now, we've got to get back to another big story for us today, and that is MPs are currently debating a petition that calls for the Northern Ireland Legacy Bill to be scrapped, which critics argue would pave the way for British Army veterans to be prosecuted if it becomes law. Now, Northern Ireland veterans are currently holding a protest in Westminster as we speak to coincide with the debate. Let's get live now to reporter, GB News reporter Dougie Beattie. He's been patiently waiting for us all afternoon on the ground. Dougie Beattie, what's the mood on the ground? Tell us more.
Well, the mood on the ground here is quite angry, actually, Martin. We've seen 500 motorcycles rolling thunder coming through, and actually, I'm surprised you get actually hear Yvette Cooper speaking there because of the amount of horns and motorcycle engines revving outside the Houses of Parliament. Now, this is going to be very tricky for Keir Starmer because, of course, most of these areas where these soldiers are being brought back from are quite a few of them are on red wall seats, and they are very, very angry about how many of these veterans are being asked to come back to Northern Ireland to face charges from 50 years ago, things that have already been investigated. Now, Keir Starmer as well, I would assume that he had sight of these letters of comfort because, of course, he was the civil rights lawyer for the PSNI on the policing board in Northern Ireland at the time these letters of comfort were given, and he has yet to deny that he's seen them being given out to IRA terrorists or seen them beforehand. So these veterans are asking that question, but Ian Duncan Smith had something else to say.
Well, I hope it's not repealed. The government has got to make a choice now. They may not like all of it, but they have to settle with it because all it will do is reopen this persecution of British veterans who served in Northern Ireland, like myself, who did what they were asked to do under incredibly difficult circumstances, serve their country, and now they're being pursued when many of them, most of them, their cases were dealt with way back, so they're being resurrected again. But there is no pursuit of those members of the IRA who carried out some of these atrocities. It's a very one-sided process. So the reason why the original legislation was brought in under the last government was to put an end to all of this and say we'll go the South African way. Peace and reconciliation is the only way. It would be a mistake for the government to get rid of the Act because what it gave us an opportunity was to know what happened, but without persecution. That's the key.
Yes, well, you could hear from Ian Duncan Smith there. He, of course, served in Northern Ireland and lost many friends and told me that he was prepared to take that as long as veterans didn't get brought back to court. And there is real anger growing around this issue inside Northern Ireland, and it is now spreading to the rest of the UK. We did have 3 of the Veterans Commissioners here today, one from Scotland, one from Wales, and one from Northern Ireland. And of course, England doesn't have a Veterans Commissioner just at this moment, and veterans are very keen to see one being appointed. So really, they are starting to put pressure on here to make sure that the Legacy Act stays in place.
Well, that debate currently is raging on in Parliament. I believe it wraps up about 7:30 this evening. We'll get full reaction then. Dougie Beattie, thank you for sticking with us, and thank you for reporting there from Westminster, from Parliament Square. Always an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Dougie Beattie. Now, coming up next, England have won an epic test match against India. They've won by a whisker-thin 22 runs after a 5-day epic. We'll bring you the latest analysis. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 5:26. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, after a dramatic fifth day at Lord's, England have beaten India by a whisker-thin 22 runs in the third test to take a 2-1 series lead with 2 tests remaining. Now, England mark the 6th anniversary today, July the 14th. Of course, that unforgettable, historic World Cup win with another victory as Shahid Bashir stepped off the injured list to deliver the decisive wicket. Epic stuff. And I'm now joined by the chief sports writer at the Sunday People, Neil Moxley. Neil, a beautiful day's cricket once again. Tell us all about it.
Good afternoon, Martin. Well, it was edge of your seat, gripping, just a wonderful denouement to 5 days of wonderful cricket. It was sporting combat of the highest order between two teams that really didn't want to give an inch from the moment the first ball was bowled until Shahid Bashir unfortunately castled Mohammad Siraj with England winning by 22 runs. Just a fantastic advert for Test cricket.
And Neil Moxley, there wasn't a great deal of love lost between the teams in this encounter. Sometimes a bit fractious, bit of man-bags out there.
Yeah, I mean, it just adds to the spectacle and the drama of the thing, doesn't it? I mean, 5 minutes from the end of Saturday's play, everything sort of drifting towards. It was dramatic. It was dramatic stuff, as it always is towards the close of play, and then obviously there's a bit of needle between the two sides rather over time wasting, and from then on it really was. Take the gloves off, and it was a hand-to-hand combat with a cricket ball. It was wonderful stuff, Martin, from beginning to end.
And obviously, Ben Stokes, the captain, on this historic day, something about July the 14th. I think, Ben Stokes should buy some raffle tickets, some lottery tickets on July the 14th. It seems to be a blessed day. But listen, Neil Moxley, of course, Ben Stokes opted to bat first this time round. He was often criticised in the past for not doing that, playing more defensively. He decided to go on the attack. Hey, I tell you what, Neil, it's paid off.
Yeah, absolutely, Martin. In the last test at Edgbaston, he copped a bit of flack for refusing to take what appeared to be the obvious decision. And this time around, perhaps looking at the conditions, which were, as we know, absolutely scorching, and there wasn't a lot of movement around, really. It was a bit of a low, slow pitch, really. And let's face it, it paid off in the final reckoning, because England's total of what India had to chase down to 193. A lot of the pundits were saying, 250, 300 was a competitive last innings total to change. So it looked a little bit below par. But, cometh the hour, cometh the man. I mean, he didn't do it all on his own, Martin. Jofra Archer weighed in with 3 wickets. Chris Woakes weighed in with 1. Bashir got 1. So, and Bryden Cast as well. So it was a real team effort. And I think this one would have given Ben Stokes a lot of satisfaction.
I've got to say, there's one person who's miserable about this, and that is GB News' political editor, Chris Hope. He had a ticket and couldn't make it today because he had to sit in the studio with me. He'll be hating me forever. But on a serious point, 2-1 up, looking ahead. This England now have the edge, surely, to take the series.
Yeah, it's got shades of the 2000. Sadly, I'm old enough to remember the 2005 Ashes series, where we took a 2-1 lead with, we drew level at Edgbaston in pretty similar circumstances, where the visitors were chasing down a total, and it got really hairy. I think Steve Harmison had two runs to play with. So, yeah, but it's all set up beautifully for the final 2 matches, Martin, at Old Trafford and the Oval.
Now, Neil Moxley, for those people watching this who perhaps are scratching their heads and going, what's all the fuss about? It's 5 days of people whacking Willow around leisurely. I mean, Test cricket is like the ultimate game of chess, is it not, for cricketers? It's about every single piece going together, about over the days. It's like an opera. A battle over 5 days. I mean, people like me and you, Neil, might like it when they smack them around for the 20 overs, but this is the true, pure cricket sport.
Oh, mine. I don't know whether you've been reading that off script or not, but people say that that you don't really understand and appreciate the opera, until you've been a few times and understand the nuances of it all. And I think it's the same with Test cricket. It is the ultimate, because you've got pretty unlimited time to bat and pretty unlimited time to bowl. It's a game of cat and mouse all the time, and instead of crash bang wallop in a set allotted amount of overs, it's really for the intelligentsia, shall we put it like that? It's really the ultimate form of cricket, and I love it, and I think a lot of English cricket supporters would echo those sentiments.
And, of course, there's the added bonus, being able to sit there over 5 days and slowly get sozzled in the sun. You can't do that at the football. Neil Moxley, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us on the show on this historic victory there. Let's see, Chief Sports Writer at the Sunday People, Neil Moxley. Now, you've got to be feeling lucky after that, in which case, good. There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, an incredible £54,321, totally tax-free. Here's all the details that you could need for a chance to make it yours.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, and now there's plenty more to come throughout the rest of the show. But for now, if you're travelling home from work or from school, first, stay safe. And secondly, here is your traffic and your travel update. And please stick with us.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A99 is closed between Latheron and Libster following a collision. Road users should find alternative routes and allow for longer travel times. On the westbound M487 bridge, roadworks have shut the road, with diversions in place. In Lancashire, the M6 southbound between junction 33 and 32 is closed. In East Riding of Yorkshire, a lane is closed on the M62 eastbound between junction 37 and 38 after an accident. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast is experiencing major disruption between Rugby and Stafford. Cross Country reports significant issues through Doncaster. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
There's plenty more still to come between now and 6 o'clock, including families whose loved ones have been murdered by mentally disordered killers are fearful they'll be locked out, and a controversial new government bill. I'll be joined by Emma Webber next, whose son Barnaby Webber was killed in Nottingham, to discuss the bill. First is your latest news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 5:34 and breaking this afternoon. Ofcom has launched an investigation into the BBC over its Gaza documentary. Earlier today, the BBC admitted that the programme Gaza: How to Survive a War Zone breached its own editorial guidelines. Aristocrat Constance Martin and her partner, convicted rapist Mark Gordon, have been found guilty of the manslaughter of their newborn baby. Sir Keir Starmer has thanked emergency responders and said his thoughts are with the families and loved ones of the 4 people who died after a plane crash at London's Southend Airport yesterday. President Trump has announced that the US has made a deal to send weapons to NATO. The US president also warned that he will impose very severe tariffs on Russia in 50 days if there is no deal to stop the war in Ukraine. And a report into the BBC's MasterChef has upheld 45 allegations against the show's former presenter, Greg Wallace. He said he's deeply sorry for the distress his behaviour caused and said he never set out to harm or humiliate. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, well, a wet day for some and a windy day in places as well. And for everywhere, it will be cooler and fresher. Now, many places have already turned cooler thanks to this area of low pressure. The weather front's tracking their way northwards, pushing away the very warm air that was with us through the weekend. Still pretty warm at the moment across East Anglia, but a few showers in here. Some heavy showers for northeast England and eastern Scotland. This line of rain continues to drift northwards through the early hours, and then lots of showers come in around that area of low pressure. Things turn pretty wet across Northern Ireland and windy in Wales and southwest England. A cooler night, temperatures dipping into the low teens, and a fresher feel on Tuesday, but a pretty wet start for parts of Northern Ireland, and quickly that rain spreading into southwest Scotland. Today's rain still lingering over the far north, but tending to ease off, and actually northern Scotland seeing some of the brightest weather tomorrow, but a wet start for southwest Scotland. That rain pulling away from Northern Ireland into North Wales, northwest England, where it will be a wet and windy day. These winds really picking up around the coast of Wales and southwest England. Unseasonably windy here, but quite a breezy, gusty day for many places tomorrow. And a wet day for much of Wales, northwest England. That rain creeping into northeast England, up towards the central belt of Scotland. Turns a bit brighter in Northern Ireland, but there'll still be plenty of showers here for the afternoon. The rain doesn't really reach East Anglia and the southeast until potentially late in the day. We could still get to 22 degrees here, but generally these temperatures 10 degrees or lower or more compared to the weekend. We'll see a bit of showery rain then clearing away to the east through Tuesday evening. Some welcome rain for some, of course. Wednesday's back to largely dry. Some patchy rain in the southwest and a few showers over northern England and southern Scotland. And showing signs of warming up a touch again in the south. Temperatures mostly in the low 20s.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 5:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the mother of one of the Nottingham attack victims, Barnaby Webber, has spoken out against proposed legislation that would remove the statutory right for victims to be informed about decisions on an offender's detention, their leave or their discharge. Emma Webber has called the Victims and Courts Bill utterly outrageous. Now, under the proposed legislation, there will be no legal obligation to keep victims informed, to consult with them or to allow appeals from victims. Now, all this will be left to the discretion of the hospital managers and the probation services. And I'm delighted to say I'm now joined by Emma Webber. Emma, welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. It's a month ago now I joined you and your beautiful family in Nottingham for that second anniversary walk. I hope you're keeping as well as can be expected. Emma, I know, looking in your eyes, nobody is going to lie down and take this kind of stuff like yourself. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. Tell us about the Victims and Courts Bill and why you think it's utterly outrageous.
Well, thank you. I find it, people to call me a campaigner and strong, and I think I'm none of those things. I am just Barney's mum, but I'm not going to stop. And I think you know that, Martin. And thank you for your support on that really difficult day. It meant an awful lot to all of us. But it just. Where does the fighting have to stop? It seems like every single corner that we turn, we're faced with adversity and we're having to push back. And I only found out at the end of last week by Julian Hendy of 100 Families charity about this quiet part of the bill that's seemingly being pushed through Parliament, but it will take away, or it doesn't even give. I mean, there will be no statutory rights for victims of heinous crimes like the one we've had to go through with Callacane, as and when they get released or time reduced into the community, whatever. It says that we can put a request in and that families may put requests in. And I think there's a big difference between having statutory rights and being able to make requests, because you can ask for anything in this world. But as we've found out, the amount of things we've asked for quite legitimately over the past 2 years have been very short in being forthcoming.
And Emma, one of the things about your inquiry that you want to be a line in the sand is no more of this thoughts and prayers, no more, platitudes, no more lighting of candles. This was about a new era of full transparency. So how on earth can they go down the route of doing the precise opposite here?
I'm astounded that within this, it actually gives the power of the decision making to hospital managers. I think anyone that knows a little bit about our case know that it's the heinous negligence and poor decision making of said hospital managers that allowed Callacane to roam freely, avoid taking his medication, and plan the murder of my son and Grace and Ian, and tried to murder 3 more innocent people. So That's how well hospital managers have served us as a family. I'm no expert, and I can only tell the truth, and I can only ask questions, and that's what I continue to do. So what I can confirm is that just since we've been on air, we seem to have made a small headwind today, in as much as Alex Davis-Jones, who's the victims minister, has reached out to ask if 100 families, Julian Hendy and myself, would be now happy to meet, as we've asked, and we've said, of course, yes, but we have asked to meet with Shabana Mahmood as well, because this is the Ministry of Justice, and we've sat in rooms with both of those ministers and been told about changes and improvements to mental health bills, to the homicide laws, to the 10-year health plan, but not once has this been mentioned. And this is the one that really counts to us, because there's every chance that this monster, and you know my thoughts about him and his sentencing, but this monster will be out in society, and we will have no voice, we will have no support. All we could do is ask for information, and doctors are there to treat. They're not there to punish and to judge.
And Emma, do you have faith? Let me ask you quite simply, do you have faith in a system which seems at every juncture to protect itself and not protect people like yourself?
No, I feel suspicious about everyone and everything now in authority and agencies when we go along. But I do maintain I have to have hope, and I have to make this voice that's been thrust upon me, the same as with the other families, count for something. And I do think that there's a part of it that's working, because thanks to people like you, we are getting listened to. And I don't think for a single second we'd have a statutory public inquiry about to take place had we not made so much noise, and had we not had the public's support and the media's support behind us. And I don't say that lightly, because it takes everything that we've got to sometimes just get through a day, let alone fight back. But we will push back and we will challenge, because we're not the only family. Do you know there are between 100 and 120 homicides through mental health every single year, and 20% of those on average are people that are not known to the killer. So, sadly, Barney was one of those. But there are so many things that could have changed the course of that and should have changed the course of that, and people just didn't do their jobs properly. But when things go wrong and when this happens, then we as victims, whoever and wherever and however we are, have to have rights, because we are facing a lifetime and a legacy of trying to deal with our grief and our tragedy.
Well, Emma Webber, I know they've just picked on the wrong people speaking with you guys. I really know that. I want to do all I can to help and support you. It's a privilege to know you. It's a privilege to have walked with you, and I want to do all we can to keep this in the news. Love to your husband and your wonderful son, Charlie, and the Kumars, of course, and the Coasters. Thank you so much, darling.
Thanks, Martin.
Pleasure.
See you again.
Thank you. You
Bye.
take care. Oh, what you say absolutely just takes your breath away. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Bishopsthorpe Road, it's on the verges of York City Centre, and it was once crowned the best high street in Britain, but there is a new issue facing it, and that is?
The cost of parking. It's increased by, wait for it, 500%.
And they've done that overnight without consultation, right?
Yeah.
So it now costs £4.85 an hour, right? And what's that going to do? It's going to stop people visiting.
It's going to drive people away.
Anna, it's not easy to get around York, I have to say. One road in, one road out type thing, congestion around the place. Yes, there's car parking spaces, but goodness me. I mean, this is obviously very, very controversial. These are the sort of taxes, indirect taxes, that come on all of us. It's now going to cost us so much money just to get there, just to see there. Tell us more.
That's right, Eamon, and the City of York Council have introduced this to try and reduce congestion, to try and get more people on buses.
Extra things like this just mean that A, it's been unprepared, but also it just adds up, and it then stops you from doing other things. And then, you know, for people that haven't got enough money to eat and to, you know, to look after their kids and things, I think it's disgusting, to be honest.
Thank you for speaking with us this morning, Karen. Really appreciate it. The council say that they are going to review these charges. They're going to look at them every 3, 6 and 9 months and start engaging with the local community to just see how fair these prices are.
OK, Anna Riley.
Where are you parked this morning, Anna?
We're parked here, £22.50 it's cost us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 5:49. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. After a string of injuries forced him into early retirement, former Scotland rugby international star Rory Lamont fell into a deep depression and even contemplated at his lowest point taking his own life. However, he now claims that all of those negative thoughts disappeared after a trip to a shaman in the Costa Rican rainforest. Now he's working with academics to help other people, other sports people, to recover from their own trauma. Delighted to say I'm now joined by the man, the legend, Rory Lamont, in the studio here in Westminster. Rory, welcome to the studio. Pleasure to have your company. Let's start, if we can, with your career cut short by horrific injuries, and at the age of 30 you found yourself more or less on the scrap heap, and you found that tough.
Yeah, I mean, it was particularly tough. It's always tough for a sports person losing their career, their identity. We know that our whole life has been geared to that role and that identity and performing, and it's like, to get to the top you have to be so focused, and then suddenly when that's removed there's a void that is left, and that's a really tough part. In my case, I also had to navigate the collapse of my health, which just deepened the level of crisis that I found myself in. And with the loss of my health, I kind of lost the vision for a life going forward, which was a challenging thing.
You had a badly shattered leg, and you said multiple times of fractured skull, concussion, so a lot of serious head injuries, and you felt low, you felt dark, you had tendencies to want to take your own life even. And then you went to a retreat in the Costa Rican rainforest. What happened?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, this is just my testimony. I'm not advocating, or I'm not evangelist for these medicines, but I do appreciate. I went to the Costa Rican jungle to connect to a plant medicine, a shamanic plant medicine that basically took me out of my despair and my depression and anxiety and the grieving the loss of my career, grieving the loss of my health, which was the biggest, really the biggest loss for me, was actually losing my health. I had a bad reaction to surgical antibiotics, which really complicated my health issues. And so this medicine, basically this plant medicine, gave me a perspective, an insight. It gave me kind of a life review to see the role of trauma in my life, and to see how that had been playing its role in guiding me into the situation that I was in.
Rory walked away from that clearly a changed man and a healed man. And then last week you went to Manchester University, my old university, to talk to others about your role in helping other sports people to repair their own bodies and minds.
That's correct. You know, I've shared my story because I think it's an important one, not to try promote these medicines, but just to share my testimony of what worked for me, something outside the allopathic system that has worked for me when, well, mainstream medicine had no real answer for what I was navigating at the time. And so, yeah, this path has given me profound insight about the nature of trauma in my struggles, and it lifted me out of despair and into a place of hope and optimism. So it didn't fix my health, didn't fix my life situation, but it changed the way I was thinking and changed the way I was looking at my life. And once hope came in, I was able to start moving forward in my life and meeting the challenges that I was facing at the time with a sense of optimism.
It's a fascinating story, and you seem very at peace. You seem very calm and placid. You obviously feel it.
I do feel it, and this is why I share the message, and I've had the opportunity to connect with David Nutt, Professor David Nutt, Professor Joe Neal, an ambassador for Heroic Hearts, who all dive deep into this research.
Rory, I'm being told we have to leave it there. Rory Lamont, pleasure to have your company. Now, just a reminder there that was Rory's personal experience, and a reminder that the research in this area is limited and highly debated. Make sure you seek professional help. Now, let's get to Jubes & Co, who's up next, the queen of primetime debate.
Thanks, Martin. Inspiring story there. Yes, indeed, everyone that's suffering should reach out and get help. Coming up on Jubes & Co, so much to discuss. I've got Zia Youssef and Barry Gardner. I need to talk about Donald Trump. Should Parliament be recalled, basically, for him to have a proper and full state visit to address all of those MPs? Ed Miliband, he's saying the biggest threat to Britain is climate change. I don't know where he's been. I would argue there's quite a few other threats that we should be focusing on. But anyway, we'll look at that. The new Future Fund Labour have been announcing for the youth. Is this the answer? Many people, though, just want to talk about tax. Are they actually now going to come for the middle classes? Those people that work as hard as they can to bank as much money for their family as they can. I'll see you in a sec.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A wet and windy day for quite a few of us tomorrow, and a fresher feel as well. It already started to turn a bit cooler through the day today compared to the weekend, but look at this. A low pressure system moving in, the isobars squidging together. The wind's picking up tonight across Wales and southwest England especially. Today's rain lingering across Scotland, affecting the far north of the mainland and the Western Isles, and then more showery rain coming into Northern Ireland, western parts of England and Wales through the night, and some showers in southern Scotland as well. It will be a cooler, fresher, less humid night. Temperatures down into the low teens, maybe even into single figures across some parts of Scotland. A fine day generally over northern Scotland once we've lost the early cloud, but far from that elsewhere as wet weather and windy weather comes into the west. Very gusty around the coast of southwest England and Wales, and seasonably windy here through the Irish Sea. It's also going to be pretty wet. The rain will be heading away from Northern Ireland, spreading into southern parts of Scotland. But as I mentioned, much of northern Scotland having a dry and a bright day, although it may start a little bit murky with some drizzly rain over the Northern Isles. But it's wet and windy in this central swathe. That rain at times into the central belt, moving into northern England and across much of Wales, eventually into the Midlands. Not much of it getting to eastern counties of England, certainly not the southeast and East Anglia until late on. It will be a cooler, fresher day, certainly feeling much cooler on the west coast of Wales with those gusty winds. Same goes for southwest England. So we'll like to see a bit of rain turning up here through the night, and that could linger into Wednesday. A few scattered showers over central, northern and eastern parts of England, maybe southern Scotland on Wednesday, but many places on Wednesday will be dry and bright with some sunshine. But instead of the heat of the weekend, temperatures much closer to the average, most places getting into the low 20s.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Road users should exercise caution on the A9 Dornoch Bridge as high winds affect driving conditions. On M48 westbound, the Severn Bridge is closed due to ongoing roadworks with diversions. In Middlesbrough, a collision on the A174 westbound between junctions with the A1032 and A19 has resulted in lane closures and a 10-minute delay. Disruption on the M25 anti-clockwise at junction 3 in Kent, where a collision has closed one lane. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast reports major disruption between Rugby and Stafford, and Cross Country reports delays through Doncaster. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
as I and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry and this is Tubes & Co. Coming up tonight, the British way of life is under threat because of climate change. Ed Miliband has just announced, I've got to tell you, it's under threat because of quite a lot of things, quite frankly. But anyway, I won't digress. He says that politicians who reject net zero policies are failing future generations. Do you agree with that? And £500 million announced for a Better Futures Fund has been all about focusing on the youth. Let's look at that. But I've got to tell you, when it comes to Labour policy ideas, all people really want to focus on is what the Transport Secretary said yesterday, that people on a modest income will have tax rises, leading many people to worry that they are then coming for the middle classes. Your thoughts? And eyebrows have been raised at the amount of money councils are spending on luxuries for asylum seekers. Reform UK's Doge team say it's outrageous. So let's have a look. And it's been suggested that Parliament should be recalled for Donald Trump's next state visit, so of course he can address the powers that be. Oh, I'd love to see that. Do you agree, though, that it should be? Well, we've got all of that and lots more alongside me till 7. My panel, Zia Youssef, the head of Reform UK's Doge Unit, and Barry Gardner, the Labour MP for Brent West. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 6. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. Aristocrat Constance Martin and her partner, convicted rapist Mark Gordon, have been found guilty of the manslaughter of their newborn baby. 38-year-old Martin and 51-year-old Gordon went on the run with daughter Victoria in early 2023 after their 4 other children were taken into care. Police had launched a nationwide hunt after their car burst into flames on the motorway near Bolton, and the couple were arrested after 7 weeks on the run. Following a search, police found their baby Victoria dead amid rubbish inside a little bag in a disused shed nearby. Martin and Gordon claim that their daughter died following a tragic accident after Martin fell asleep on her. Ofcom has launched an investigation into the BBC over its Gaza documentary. Earlier today, the BBC admitted that the programme, Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone, breached its own editorial guidelines. A review found the broadcaster failed to disclose that the documentary was narrated by a son of a Hamas official. The film was pulled from iPlayer earlier this year amid backlash. Production company Hoyo Films knew the boy's background, but no one at the BBC did. The Culture Secretary earlier said that she's pleased the BBC has acknowledged catastrophic failures, while Director General Tim Davie called it a significant failing and pledged action to prevent it from happening again. Sir Keir Starmer has thanked emergency responders and said his thoughts are with the families and loved ones of the 4 people who died after a plane crash at London Southend Airport yesterday. Earlier, Essex Police confirmed that the plane was heading to the Netherlands and that while the official identities of the victims have yet to be confirmed, it is understood that they are foreign nationals. The aircraft came down shortly after takeoff, rolling to the left before nosediving into grass near the runway. Images posted online showed large flames and a cloud of black smoke following the crash. The airport remains closed until further notice. President Trump has announced that the US has made a deal to send weapons to NATO, threatening to impose very severe tariffs on Russia in 50 days if there is no deal to stop the war in Ukraine. The president made the comments during a meeting with NATO chief Mark Rutte in the White House. Mr. Rutte said that Europeans are stepping up to support President Zelensky's country. The, quote, best military equipment will be distributed quickly, that's according to President Trump. He added that trade is great for settling wars. And Donald Rose, the UK's oldest World War II veteran, has passed away at the age of 110. A sniper with the Queen's Royal Regiment, he served in North Africa, survived D-Day and helped liberate Bergen-Belsen. The Royal British Legion made the announcement earlier today. Those are your latest GB News headlines. More from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that, and hello and good evening to each and every one of you today. I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, of course, my panel, Zia Youssef, Head of Reform UK's Dirge, and Barry Gardner, the Labour MP for Brent West. Good evening, gents. You're both very welcome tonight, as are each and every single one of you at home. So tell me then, what is on your mind this evening? You can join the conversation, of course, in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/your say, or you can tweet, or you can X me wherever you're watching and listening tonight. You are very, very welcome indeed. Now, the British way of life is under threat, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we all know that, don't we? But anyway, the latest iteration of this is the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband. He discussing all of this today when focusing on climate change. Take a listen.
What is net zero was a target that Theresa May adopted, driven by the science. So what are they? They are anti-science, they are anti-jobs, they are anti-energy security, and they are anti-future generations. Can't put it better than Theresa May, and this is what she said. It's Theresa May, she was a former Conservative Prime Minister just 5 years ago. Those of us who advocate accelerating our progress towards net zero emissions are labelled fanatics and zealots. Ironically, the name-calling often emanates from ideologues at the political extremes or from populists who offer only easy answers to complex questions. I couldn't put it better myself.
Well, there you go. What do you make to that? He was, of course, suggesting there that politicians that don't buy into the net zero policies are failing somehow future generations.